Okay, so welcome, Susie, again to the Zoom room.
Hi,
Nice of
Jono.
you to join us. Sally should be joining us fairly shortly. So you had a question.
Yeah,
Uh,
like I said, I've had a busy weekend, but I listened to part of your call last night, and I like how you were talking about the Holy Spirit, and there's a lot of interesting things in there, but I just wanted to understand the Holy Spirit because as I've been doing these sessions, I'm noticing there's a pull and push on my part where, like you've said before, it's either all or nothing. And it's out of your control, which obviously probably not the word control. I'm just being honest. I don't know. It's I'm noticing it so much. But yesterday's talk was interesting. Then I thought, gosh, I'm afraid of the Holy Spirit. I think there was a lot more I had to ask myself, like be honest with myself about what is it. I didn't really, and I knew I wanted to come on today because today's lesson's good about acceptance, but I just wanted you to run through Holy Spirit and what is this fear that we feel that comes across or
Okay, yeah, it's a very good question, and one, I think you're not alone there. I think there's many people, many Christians. We don't really know what this Holy Spirit is. It's a term used in the Christian teaching quite a lot. Part of the concept of the Holy Trinity. I think I've been through, but I've got a diagram which I'll speak to. So let me just share my screen with you. And
I think you do get confused because all these modalities, some say inner child, then there's the higher self, there's so much going off. I always thought the true essence of you is what we're talking about, but I'd like to know what.
Yeah, okay. So yeah, the Holy Spirit is just a part of your mind. So how Yeshua explains it, broken down into diagrammatic format. This is the best way I've been able to simplify it, put it into diagram format. So at the very top, you have God, or the Father, as it's called in the Course in Miracles. Heaven is the state of being one with the Father. Love, oneness, eternity, pure forms awareness, perfect love. Those are the terms we use. Source, using the Course, we use it as well. Knowledge, infinity. There's others. You can beingness. There's the ground of being. There's many names for it's the ultimate essence. Essence, another one. Presence, source. You can go on and on and on. There's like probably 20 names, and then not even mentioning other languages. In other languages, they call it Brahman. Hindu, they call it Brahman. It's the infinite, ultimate, absolute essence, which actually can't be named. The Tao, another one. Tao in Chinese. The Tao that can be named is not the Tao, said Laozi in the Tao Te Ching. So it's the very essence, the source of who we are, and but it's so absolute and abstract that we can't really get a handle on it. That's one of the problems with this God thing. So what we've tried to do then is conceptualize it. Of course, as soon as you conceptualize this, you miss the essence of it, because it's not a concept. It's infinite and it's eternal. It's not something you could box into the concept. So then God becomes devolved into a jealous God. And I was listening to Oprah the other day. She was saying, well, what kind of awoke her from a Baptist? She grew up as a Baptist. Well, she was in church in her 20s, and this teacher's saying, the preacher's saying, yeah, well, God is almighty and God is merciful, but your God is a jealous God. And she said, whoa, that just didn't strike me as authentic. You're talking on the one hand of this infinite, eternal, absolute merciful presence, and then you're saying it's a jealous God. Like there's a contradiction here. And so that made her go searching in what would be called New Age teachings, and then she found Eckhart Tolle. And much later in life, and started to try and understand that God is, you can't box it, you can't put it into a framework like most religions have, so that it's more understandable for our finite minds. So how then do you understand it? That's the question. It's infinite, it's absolute, it's abstract, it's beyond conception, it's beyond time and space. How do you actually interact with that, that power when it's so kind of abstract? So this is the problem we face. So the Holy Trinity is it's really an operating system for your life. It's a way of approaching this infinite absolute reality we call God through aspects of our mind that connect with that. They're not the full picture yet. They're not the whole experience of it, but it's a memory of it. It's a taste of it. So you have this idea in the Holy Trinity, and this is the courses. The course talks about the Holy Trinity. It's got Father, Son, and Holy Spirit very clearly in a lot of the passages. It talks about those sort of three ideas. So the Son, or the extension, is this idea that there is a true self, and in the course's terminology, that's called the extension. The Son, Christ. Could actually add in Son in here, I suppose. True self, Christ, Son, Buddha, and in the Hindu tradition, it would be called Atman. It's kind of the soul of someone, the very essence of them, but it's not the Father, it's not Brahman. So all these different traditions have some kind of system for trying to, it's really about a system that's bringing you back home. It's going to return you to source. Maybe we call this extension. So in our language, true self, Christ, extension of God. True self, Christ, extension. See if we can improve the diagram while we're going around. Yeah, so that'll do. Almost. So it's still a concept, but it's the highest self-concept that you can have. It's not a false self-concept because it's based on oneness. This self-concept says, I am one with everyone and everything. I'm not separate. There's only one self, really. And so Yeshua doesn't leave us. The Buddha said there's no self. Doctrine of anatta, it's called. He said there's no self. There's just this infinite, absolute, eternal oneness. Ultimately, that is correct. But for a lot of people, that's absolutely terrifying to think that there's no self. You're addicted to the small self. So what Yeshua has done in his system, he's given us another self-concept, which is still not the infinite absolute. It's not this, but it connects you with this. So if you believe you're one self and you hold to that, that will bring the experience of this oneness more and more into your mind. So it becomes a bridge, you see. And we can now communicate. Talks about communication between Father or Source and Son and its extension. And this is now the communication between these two, supposed entities. The truth is, it's all one. You have the pure formless awareness of perfect love. That's always there in your mind, but you've forgotten that. You've covered that over. So now you have to remember it. And this Holy Trinity is a system for remembering it. Literally remembering the sonship, right? In your mind, you're saying, I remember that I'm one self. That's a massive advance, isn't it? From the idea that I'm a little separate self, condemned to die in a body, to thinking I'm one self. And that self is an eternal self. That Christ concept cannot die. is a huge step forward, isn't it? So now that's going to start bringing more of this experience of oneness. Starts to merge your mind back into the oneness, and you start having more experiences of, mystical experiences, we call them, where you just very peaceful, very open, spacious awareness, no judgments. There's a lot of peace, and more this state of mind arises. Right? The state of pure formless awareness starts to become your default state, because this concept, self-concept, capital self-concept, is arising more and more in your mind. And so that is now the merging of the Father or the Source and the Son and its extension. Do you see that? More and more of the experience, the state of pure formless awareness, of perfect love, arising because you have this idea that I'm one self. And now everything that you can think and perceive in this world is happening from that one self. You get that? So it's a self-concept that can operate in this world, whereas this can't. The problem with the anatta, doctrine of no self. Okay, well then if there's no one really here, how do I function in my life? Who makes the decisions? Who perceives them in my life? Because perception is not just going to go away. Who perceives? Who makes decisions in my life? So Yeshua's giving us a way of operating in this illusion, but with now a true self-concept. That's the Christ that can actually interact with this world, because Christ's vision now is perception. Talks about Christ's vision. We talk about true perceptions, miracles, also called miracles, the whole awareness through forgiveness. We call it letting go. We call it surrender. We call it salvation. That would be another one. So this process, salvation, at one moment, there's many terms for it. It's actually all referring to the same thing. The one self is now able to perceive differently. It's able to make different decisions about the world and what it's going to do in the world and how it's going to respond and how it's going to behave based on this higher self-concept of I'm one self here. So I don't see myself as separate. I see myself as one. Massive shift in our self-concept, and then it's got to change our entire perception. Well, I'm not really separate. So although I might see evidence for separation, I don't believe it. It's not true. I recognize that it's false. So now I have a thought system through this higher self-concept and the Holy Spirit, right? Which is really these arrows. Holy Spirit, or remembrance of oneness, or perfect love, is what connects this. The Holy Spirit is that part of my mind that is able to reinterpret and perceive things differently. All people, places, things, events, circumstances, situations, all of our traumas, our successes, our failures, and all experiences that seem to exist and happen in the physical universe of time and space. The Holy Spirit can reinterpret all of that from the perspective of the one self. I am the Christ. I'm the one self that has never changed. It never will change. I am still one. Even though I see the apparent effects of separation, I don't believe in those, because I know that I'm not the little self. So I can't interpret my experiences from that place of the little self, which is always feeling hardly done by, unfairly treated. It's feeling like the victim. It's feeling powerless. It's suffering, and so on and so on. The one self says, you still are one. You still are, that place in the movie. The main character, Andy Dufresne, when he was explaining to Morgan Freeman, he says there's a place in you they cannot touch. They can't take it away. They can't get to that. He's referring to this essence. It doesn't matter where you are and what's being done to you, whether you're in an awful environment like a prison or things are going relatively well. there's something in you that can't be touched. And so the Holy Spirit reminds you of that, remembers that for you, connects you with this higher self concept of oneself, allows you to see everything differently, perceive everything differently. And the more you do that, the more you're going to start having what you'd call mystical experiences, more of this pure formless awareness arising in your mind, more peace, more just beingness, where you're not thinking, you're just in a state of pure formless awareness, spacious awareness, because there's just pure awareness here. There's no thought in the way that we think of thought. There's no subject object dualistic thought. Oh, I do this, I think about this, I see you, I talk to you. That's subject object, isn't it? There's no awareness of separation. So more and more you start to merge into this experience. And so the Holy Spirit and the Christ bring you back home to God. See? They deliver you back to the experience of pure formless awareness, of perfect love. And to that being your only experience. And he says, don't worry about it, because God will take the final step. This state itself, because it's the truth of your mind, will eventually become your whole mind, and you simply will merge into that. It's not, it won't be anything dramatic on the level of form. It's just the final acceptance. Okay, this state is my state. I'm eternally at peace. My peace cannot ever be affected at all. And so perception and time and everything we've invented through the ego simply slips away. It's no longer needed in this state, because the state is whole and complete unto itself. So the Holy Spirit and the Christ, or the true self, are an operating system to deliver you back to that experience completely. And they allow you to actually do this. It makes it practical and doable in the world and in a human life, which is quite unique in this Course in Miracles. There's no other teaching other than this Christian teaching, and unfortunately traditional Christianity doesn't understand the Holy Trinity. It's one of the great mysteries that they can't really explain. It's actually just an operating system for the mind, different aspects of the mind, to help you to get back to the ultimate awareness.
I guess that's where the confusion comes from then, because as far as we are with the book, you're getting to understand that you're not the mind. You think you're not the mind, you're not the body, but hold on, you've got to have the feeling of whatever it is, because everything's an experience. But I think it's the way I'm obviously taking things in, because I know it's changing your perspectives to what you've believed for such a long time. So I think there is that whole thing that you're getting on, you're getting by, and you're just going moment by moment. But it's that whole understanding that you're saying it is in your mind. It's part of the mind that's never going to forget. It's always there. It's that knowing. And you're just remembering who you are. But again, when you say you're not the mind or the body, but then you're going to have these experiences because you are them to embody it, it just throws you a bit. Because that's where I guess I'm thinking separation all the time, if you're not the mind or the body.
Yeah, I mean, you're dealing with a paradox. You're dealing with a split in the mind. And that's why we have to have these some kind of system to get us back to oneness. And this is the best one I've found. The Buddhism and Hinduism and Advaita, they have the truth. They talk about the infinite absolute Brahman. But I think what's missing is well, how do I get back there? All very well, we can talk about that infinite presence, but how do I actually live that way? Because it's so abstract. How does that, if that abstract eternal oneness doesn't even know about this world? It's pure formless awareness, so it doesn't know about form. How does that help me in my life?
I think with most religions, it is that whole concept of sitting in front of either a picture or something, and you're taking the emphasis away from you, making you believe in something. But then if you look at the Buddha, and like you said before, like now, the Buddha thing is there's a little Buddha in you, so you can get it that way. I think another thing that you mentioned was about soul, which I thought was really, really interesting, because that's why I like this format. I like it all because it is, number one, you're obviously changing the writing to how we understand it, and how you're doing it, and that it makes real good sense for me. If this was the first time and I picked it up, I don't know how I'd do it, but it's that whole changing the way you see things or the way you perceive things.
And that's the Holy Spirit's job. That presence is something in your mind that allows you to translate your existing, to change, to transform, translate, reinterpret, whatever language you want to use, your existing perception. So you have egoic perception in the red box. Okay, you seem to be born into that. You've been conditioned into this, and you have this, really pretty obstinate, stubborn misperception of yourself and the world as separate. But you are a separate self. You're a body. You're this limited, finite person in time and space. You have a name. You have a body. You have a story. And the more identified with this you are, the smaller you become, the narrower you become. The story is a very limited story. Every story in time and space doesn't, even if you're living at large, having some grand experience, like who comes to mind, Richard Branson. He's had a pretty expansive life. It's still a very limited story because it's not the infinite absolute. It's just a story of one character and his ups and his downs, and he's had some interesting experiences, but it's still within the framework of time and space. So it doesn't matter how expanded you get within this construct, you're still a separate self. And the Holy Spirit's job is to reinterpret that for you. Say, no, actually, whatever I experience here is just a temporary experience. This cannot ever really satisfy me, because the only thing that will satisfy me is this experience of being one with my source, to being completely whole and complete, just being in the state of pure formless awareness, merging with my source. That's the only experience where I'm ever going to be fully satisfied. And so the Holy Spirit knows that and delivers us more and more to that experience in our daily lives by helping us to see it differently, helping us to reinterpret all the experiences that we seem to have in time and space. So it's a thought system. It's a way of thinking differently about your experiences, reinterpreting them into another story that is now the story of awakening, the story of the one self that's waking up to itself. And you see everything through that lens rather than through the lens of being a separate self. So it's quite simple. The concepts are simple, but to apply this, this is tricky. Because how do you actually change your perception? That's what it comes down to. Situation by situation, moment by moment, I need to be open to changing my perception. As you're doing it more, all the time, you're gonna, well, is that true? I'm interpreting this in a certain way. I'm thinking about it in a certain way. Is that actually true? And this thought system just reminds us, no, that it's ultimately not true. It's not true at all. The only thing that is true is perfect oneness, pure formless awareness. That's the source. That's that which cannot be undone. You cannot go beyond that. You cannot undo it. You cannot break it down any further. It's the source. It's where you arrive when everything else is gone. So if you let go completely of all illusions, then what's going to reveal itself is the truth. That's the idea. So you don't have to become this. It's not like you have to force this. You already are it, but you've just got to take away the coverings, take away the false self, all of its perceptions, false identity, perceptions, feelings, thoughts, emotions. If we look at the instrument for peace, I'll bring that up. That's quite nicely shown. we go into oh, actually it's not in here, I want it. Instrument for peace. It's stripping away all these layers that are shown quite nicely on this diagram. Instrument for peace diagram. So the core of us, the very essence which sits there, is surrounded by false beliefs. A couple of weeks ago, you hit your core belief. Okay, so what do I believe about myself? What are my thoughts that sit on top of that belief? So you start to, observe these thoughts, emotions. So I have now a whole bunch of emotions related to belief and thought, and then I have perceptions. So I have this whole layer upon layer in my mind, and these are all ego defenses to the truth. So we've constructed all of this. Now, the miracle says I've got to go and start with perception. I look at my perception, realize it's not making me happy, and then go through the layers, name the emotion, name the thought, name what the belief must be, then get to the core belief of the ego, which is the desire to be a separate self. You saw, and then
you clearly see that now. The more that because we've done this a few times, and they are profoundly fantastic, really. But you can see now, especially when the more I know, the more that you say it, and the more that you hear it. But you're right, because if the true self is sitting there, and then the belief and thought, the emotion, and perception, but
it's all covering it over.
Yeah, you've got
to go through these levels.
Because you really did hit my core belief the other week, but like now, the core belief seems to be that you're a separate self. It really does, because I think, gosh, we've done so much work. I know it's been but we've done stuff in the past or whatever, but now there has just got to be this desire, and that is the ego. That's the ego at play then, because the desire of being and remaining a separate self, and I guess that's where you feel scared. And, I was saying earlier that, there's something going off where it's like, are you afraid to hear the truth, or, but it does feel like it's neck and neck. Okay, the true desire is to be at one, and that's just there. You just know that's the truth. And the only thing that's fighting is this desire, the ego, that is saying you're separate. You are separate, and that's the only way it's going to be. You might as well give up now, because this ain't going to happen. And that's when you see it there. And then you know that the only thing that's stopping you from being one is the belief, the thought, the emotion, the perception that you're holding about wanting to be your sausage.
Which comes from your desire in the end.
Yes.
It's the desire. So what the miracle is saying, let's take it down to the very core. You can't blame any of this stuff.
No.
This is all a consequence of a desire to be separate. Acknowledge for what it is. You still want to be a separate self. Therefore, you want to interpret everything from that separate self. Therefore, you've constructed these layers of belief and the thought system based on that core belief and being a separate self, and emotions, and then sense perceptions, and your entire life is made up of all this stuff. And it's based on the desire to be a separate self, which is false. That's not true. You want to be something you're not. So how can you expect that any of this is going to work if it's based on a false desire? The Buddha had the same insight. He understood that all the source of all suffering, so all of the suffering that sits in these layers, in our misperceptions of the world, in our emotions, our experience of the world, dukkha, he called it, suffering, all of that is based on desire, he said. You desire to be something that you're not.
But like you said with the Buddha, weren't it that all of a sudden he just got to that realization, didn't he, that I might as well stop this now, because it's not the truth.
Well, it wasn't all of a sudden. It was 7 years of
I'm going to say
searching, and then finally he realized in the search, I'll never find it if I keep searching. This was his insight. He sat there and he went, it's here now. Which everyone who's ever had any kind of enlightening experience. It gets, okay, it's just here now. I need do nothing. All of the seeking and the striving for it, all the ascetic practices he did and the arduous meditations and fasting, he was eating like 1 grain of rice for years, brought himself, 1 grain of rice a day for years. So he was starving. His body was, really weak. He was on death's door. And he finally realized, like, this is not the way. I won't find it this way because I'm still seeking. And I'm seeking and I'm seeking. And actually the answer is in me. If I sit quietly and I just go into the still state, I find it there. This is, this is what every spiritual master and authentic teacher has taught since time immemorial. If you go quietly into the stillness, you'll find it there because that's where it exists. That's where the truth is. But if you seek and you say, I need something else, what are you saying? You're saying, I desire to be something else than what I am, than that essence of stillness. And so now my mind goes off, it kicks off and says, oh, no, I'll seek somewhere outside of myself. And I won't just be still and quiet and let this pure formless awareness arise. I'll go seeking outside of myself. And that's exactly what the world was invented to help you do. Go and look somewhere else. You'll find it in another, if you're on the spiritual track, you'll find it in another teaching, another master, another guru, another practice. Buddha tried it all. He went to just about every teacher in India, tried all the meditations, tried all the practices, because he was so determined, and eventually came to the realization that it lay in none of them. The truth was in him all the time, but he simply needed to, he had to go on that journey of seeking and not finding in order to finally realize that the answer was within him.
And I get that too, because I always forever think I'm seeking, seeking this, seeking that. And you've said it again, and again, you'll say it is within. And then you think, well, if it is within and you're sitting in that silence or stillness, there must be still something going off because you're not allowing it just to be. If it's already there, it's within you, but you're holding yourself back from feeling it or sensing that presence because what?
Because there's still a self-concept that wants to be a separate self. So that self-concept we call the ego, a sense of I am. Ego literally means I am in Latin. Sense of I am a separate self that now has my own identity. Look here, and this is the core of the ego, and the idea of separation, and then that becomes a separate self. We call it ego or consciousness, belief in separation. That creates an individual self. By necessity, you have to invent a false self-concept. Oh, I'm separate from oneness, so now I've got to give myself another identity. And the ego, because all it understands is separation, splits itself. From the one idea of separation, it's now fragmented itself into multiple, seemingly infinite numbers of separate selves that have all now have their own identity and are incarnated into bodies. And they have different forms, human beings, there's 7 billion of us or 8 billion, whatever the number is. And then there's all the different forms, animals and plants, and, everything seems to have its own self that has a form. And so it's all a projection of the idea that I'm a separate self. And the Course is trying to teach us that. So, well, look, the world that you've invented is based on this tiny mad idea of separation. And then that's become devolved. You've gone down the ladder of separation into form, because that is the expression or the manifestation of your separate self that apparently gives it a reality. And you now live in this world that is really, if you're honest, not a very nice place. Populated by bodies that seem to be on this journey from birth to death. Nothing lasts here. Everything's going to die. You have a very limited time frame to have an experience. And the ego tries to make this experience real and meaningful. It says, this is it. This is reality. So make the most of it. Seize the day. Take what you can from life. No, but ultimately it's all going to come to an end. You're going to die. So we try that, but something's missing. we go, well, what is the point ultimately? And if you reflect on this, you say, well, everything's going to die. So why, why do we have a human life in the first place? Why all of the journey and a lot of the pain and the suffering to eventually die? Why does this actually exist? This is, the question. Every philosopher, every spiritual teacher has tried to answer. And Yeshua gives us a very simple answer. He says it only exists because you wanted it to. Because you decided that you wanted to be separate. You invented a separate self, and you invented an entire world within which to be separate. That's why you think you have a separate self in the seemingly external world. It's all a desire, and that desire is false. The idea of separation, the desire to be a separate self, is all false. So everything that comes from that must be false. Everything. Your entire experience here, the world, your self-concept here, your life history, your story, your special relationships, your work, your dreams, your desires, your hopes, your fear, all of it is false. And when you get that and you're willing to accept that, that's why we talk about acceptance in today's lesson. Acceptance is accepting the truth rather than the illusion. That means you must actually reject this entire thought system and all of its projections and manifestations in order to accept the truth. When people say, oh, you just accept it, it can get confusing because we think, well, do I have to accept the illusion? Do I have to accept all of this stuff? In Course in Miracles terms, no. The acceptance means that you are letting go of that which is not true to accept that which is true. That which is true is always this. God, love, oneness, pure formless awareness sits behind, underlies all of this. So whatever experience you're having in the dream, this is always there. It's the foundational awareness you have. It can't be destroyed. Doesn't matter what thoughts and emotions seem to be covering it over. So the Holy Spirit, looked at from this perspective, just reinterprets this dream. Whatever you're experiencing here in the construct of the separate self, the Holy Spirit is able to reinterpret and look at differently and say, well, you're actually one self. And actually what you're seeing here is confirmation that you are still one, that God is still there, love is still there, pure formless awareness still exists, and you can still experience that even as these things seem to be happening, because you no longer believe them. The thoughts, the whole thought system that's being shown in the red boxes and the red arrows, which is really a disaster. It's a complete mess if you look at it. It leads you down the ladder of separation to hell, to the helpless innovator little life, which is the life that you lead when you have a false self, an individual self. It's the lowest self-concept you can have.
But I think when you talk about acceptance, and it is like you said, you think, oh, I have to just accept it. You don't know what's going off your mind because of all these thoughts and everything. But I do like the thought that you say that you're reinterpreting the story that you have always believed, but moving that to the full-on truth of who you are.
So it starts with looking at your story, saying that's just a story, Susie. It's just Susie's story. This person, this character with a story, with this life, it's just a story. It's made up.
I've got somebody at the door. Just give me a minute.
No problem.
Sorry.
Okay. Put yourself on mute. I'll go and get a cup of tea. All right. Okay, welcome back. Resume recording. Okay. Yeah, so you were saying.
Yeah, the reinterpretation that you were saying is what's needed, because I can understand what you're saying about acceptance, because all of a sudden we think we've got to accept that you're just the ego, but it's not saying that. It's like letting you know to change that story, the whole, because it's always there. Like you said, it's always there, but there still seems to be a fear that it's not always been there. But that's your own stories, then that's your own beliefs, that's your own. Is it?
Yeah, we've covered over the truth.
Mm.
We've invented this false self-concept, which is based on fear. False, well, guilt, sin. You see, guilt, sin, because we think we've destroyed oneness. So now we think we've committed this terrible crime, that our very being, our identity is sinful and guilty. This is the ego story. This is why you'll never find happiness and satisfaction in the ego, because it believes that it's guilty just for existing. That its very being is sinful and guilty, and therefore it lives in constant fear that it's going to be punished. False expectation of punishment appearing real. So sin, guilt, fear, that gets projected out. Now you project it onto a concept of God, which is very fearful and vengeful and wrathful, because what else would you expect from guilt and sin and fear but to invent that concept of God, which we see clearly in a lot of religions. And then we live in this world where attack and fear seem to be very justified. And we seem to be living in fear, and we're never safe here, we're never happy, we're never secure. But the ego is telling us, well, this is it, this is reality, make the best of it, because there's nothing else. So, seek for whatever you can get here. What's in it for me? Take what you can, because the truth has been destroyed. All you have is the material world, and that's the dominant religion or worldview of today's society, certainly Western societies, and more Eastern as well, because they become Westernized. Is scientific materialism. We believe that only these external quadrants, only the exterior is real, and we've denied, that these interior quadrants even exist. The extreme of it, we deny we have a mind. Objective Newtonian science they can't understand consciousness. They try and understand the universe and the world in purely material terms. Okay, well, there's all these forces, and there's various atoms and molecules going off, and consciousness somehow is a product of that, but they can't really explain how it's a product of all of that. Well, the model's false. You can't. This is the extension or the projection of consciousness. The consciousness created, or the mind created this, miscreated this. So it's all mind. This is the product of a belief system. And that belief system is a belief system of separation. Oh, there's Sunny. So does that clarify it a little bit for you, Susie?
Yeah, it does. It does. And like I said, I think acceptance is the best way, because you have been accepting whatever, but yeah, you have. Thank you. You once again. But it is that topic where you just you feel that you've got there somewhere, but then all of a sudden it's like you've gone 10 steps back. It's only because you're changing the whole perspective, the whole mind game, isn't it? It's like one big mind game, and we're doing the mind training to get us back on track.
And you keep reminding yourself, so I keep showing these diagrams, because it's like, well, keep reminding yourself that this is the truth.
Well,
repeats the lessons over and over. He repeats the stuff over and over and over again. People say, well, why are you repeating yourself so much? You're surely saying it once or twice is enough. This is because we are so addicted to the ego. But it's the repetition
I have
over and
been,
over and
yeah,
over again that's going to clean our minds of this false belief.
I have been doing the I am love a lot more, but it's like I said, it's like there's something that still stops me from wanting to believe that that's what I am and not truly go there, but I don't, I just sit with it. But yeah, so that, yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Hi, Sally.
Hiya.
Hi, Sally.
Hi.
So Susie just had a question about the Holy Spirit, the Holy Trinity, how that all works. So we went into that. So listen to the recording if you want to catch up with that.
Okay.
Anything to share before we dive
Nope.
into today's teaching?
No, carry on.
Okay. Susie, you happy with that? Shall we
Yes, thank you. Yeah.
move into today's teaching? So where are we? We want to get listen. Oh, actually, no, we want to get into this. Let's get this. Let's get this. There we go. And, yeah. So Susie, if you kick it off by reading the quote on the wall. Today's quote is actually in the image.
This is not a wall to you. It is a call to accept differences, to stand proud, to feel safe and spread love. This is a welcome to every person today and always, to reject division and speak your mind, to be safe outside and in.
So there's another way of reading that.
Shall I read it the other way?
Yeah.
Because I didn't do that when I saw it this morning.
Yeah. Read it the other way.
This is not a wall. This is a welcome to you, to every person. It is a call today and always to accept differences, to reject division, to stand proud and to speak your mind, to feel safe, to be safe and spread love outside and in.
Oh, I like that better. I didn't, it was like I was reading a book, weren't it? The way I went.
I did this morning, but when I was watching you do it, I go, oh yeah, reading across was good.
Yeah, I love the way you've just read it, but yeah.
So that's interesting. This is kind of the split there. It's yin and yang kind of idea, white and black. And the temptation is to go, oh well, I'll read it down, read it down. But actually, I think the person who did it is quite clever. It was like, actually, it's meant to be read like that. That's the alternative. You can read it however you want, of course. That's up to you. It makes sense going down. But actually, when you realize that there's no split, it's integrated. Not two messages, just one message, even though there seems to be a delineation. So yeah, just I don't know where it was taken, but very, very interesting message, which I thought spoke to today's theme of acceptance. So when people say accept differences, what does that actually mean?
Not resist, to not fight it, to not want something different.
But that's why I don't use acceptance very much in the teaching, because it can be an ambiguous term. Oh, am I supposed to accept separation then? See, what it's actually pointing to is the same forgiveness or letting go of your belief in differences. That's true acceptance. You're accepting the essence and rejecting what's false. That's what true acceptance means. But on its own, people can get very confused. Oh, we'll just accept whatever is. Okay, so all of the pain and the suffering and the sickness and the death and the disasters the ego show me, I've got to accept those. But actually what it means is that I go beyond my resistance and my judgment of those, and I find a place in me that's beyond them, that transcends them through that acceptance. So it's another way of doing this forgiveness or letting go process. Where Eckhart Tolle talks about the 3 levels. In fact, I could have brought that up, but I didn't think about it. Maybe I'll do it tomorrow. So he talks about 3 levels of operating in the world. The first one is acceptance. So if you can't actually like something and enjoy it, at least you can accept it. It's okay, look, it is what it is, and I'm not going to resist it. Acceptance means you drop the resistance. Okay, it is what it is. So, you know, I'll deal with it. And that drops the resistance, which makes it real. The more you resist it, the more real it is in your mind. So it's kind of a paradox. I accept it, but actually by accepting it, I'm denying its absolute reality. Do you see that? It's weird. So I'll give you an example. A few years ago, I was driving down to another city in South Africa. It was quite late at night, 10 o'clock, 10:30. Was needed to be at my sister's house, and you know, she wanted to go to bed. So kind of had that in my mind. You know, there's someone else who will be inconvenienced if I delay this. And I had a puncture. Something was like, you know, blowout. Oh, my initial reaction was resistance. Oh, you know, spend the first minute or two cursing and like, why is this happening? And it's late at night, and you know, it's just on the side of a highway. But you know, fortunately, I'd already done a bit of this stuff, so I quite quickly realized that wasn't going to get me anywhere. I could have, you know, wailed and gnashed my teeth for hours and not got anywhere. So acceptance was necessary. So okay, so you know, it's happened, so deal with it. And so I was like, okay, just do what you have to do. I got, you know, unloaded the boot, I got the spare wheel out, you know, changed the tire, and I just was really focused in the moment of doing that. And phoned my sister, I couldn't get hold of her, so phoned my parents and said, look, you know, can you just tell her that this is the case? I'll be a bit delayed. And within half an hour, I was on the road again. And I actually felt quite satisfied by the whole experience. As I was driving, I was reflecting on, yeah, actually, that was pretty cool because I'd never done it on my own before. I'd changed wheels, tires before, never on my own. So, like, I showed I could do it on my own, and that I could manage. It really wasn't a problem, and I overcame the resistance by accepting. So, although at the time I wouldn't say I was enjoying it, I'd accepted and I was fully present in what I needed to do. And so that's kind of the first level of this. So the separation, the resistance that was caused by separating myself and resisting what's happening, I then let go of through that acceptance. So that's kind of base level acceptance, number one. If you can't do that, then you're in resistance, then you're judging, then the ego's in charge. So second level would be enjoyment. I kind of had a taste of that afterwards, not during it. I was just very present. But you know, you can have a state of actually really enjoying the experience. I'm actually loving the process in the moment. It's a very enriching, fulfilling experience, and that's, you know, ideally where you want to spend most of your life, living in that state of joy, really enjoying what you're doing and flowing with it. And then the final level he talks about is enthusiasm, where you have some kind of a calling, some kind of a higher purpose. You enjoy the process, but there's also this sort of overriding purpose, calling, dharma, that's driving you, saying, well, you're enjoying the process, but there's this kind of bigger picture. There's this great and extraordinary project that Patanjali talked about that enlivens you. And so although you're in the moment and enjoying it, there's just that idea of, well, I'm actually going somewhere with this, and this is going to be, you know, very worthwhile. It's still within time and space. Ultimately, you know, the pure formless awareness of perfect love is our objective, but you realize that, okay, there's somewhere I'm going with this, and ultimately that's going to lead to my own self-discovery. So the real project's my own hero's journey of awakening, and in the process I might be doing something on the level of form to awaken me and others. And you look at great lives like the Buddha, we talked about Yeshua, other great spiritual masters. There's kind of a project they undertake, and that project is to discover themselves, but also then they teach it. to actually teach this truth, and they dedicate themselves to that. And if they do it from this higher self, and do it persistently and consistently, it does change the world. Okay, so today's quote, message written on the wall. Do you want to read that, Sally?
In today's quote, the message written on the wall by an anonymous person or people is the simple formula for undoing your belief in differences of any kind and truly accept the differences. This doesn't mean make them real in your mind, but rather reject all forms of division, which is just separation, and in so doing, look beyond any apparent differences between the forms of this world to the simple truth that these differences are illusionary perceptions that Einstein called an optical delusion of consciousness in this well-known quote. A human being is a part of the whole called by us universe, a part limited in time and space. He experiences himself, his thoughts and feelings, as something separated from the rest, a kind of optical delusion of his consciousness. This delusion is a kind of prison for us, restricting us to our personal desires and to affection for a few persons nearest to us. Our task must be to free ourselves from this prison by widening our circle of compassion to embrace all living creatures and the whole of nature in its beauty. Optical delusion, that's good, isn't it?
Yeah, and it just shows you, and he was a scientist, but this is the realization he came to through his journey. He realized that science was it couldn't understand consciousness, and started to realize that there's something way beyond scientific materialism, and became much more philosophical in his later years. So in his early years, he was a scientist, and then actually his last 20, 30 years of life, he became more of a philosopher, actually. And his scientific productivity declined, because I think he realized, well, where am I going to go with this? He was trying to find the grand unified theory, which he never did, because you're never going to find a grand unified theory in a construct of separation. It's not. It's just a simple, actually, oneness. Only oneness is true, and this is not true. So you have to actually, in the end, reject the construct of the illusion. The entire optical delusion has to be undone. And in terms of the image, that you both, you've probably seen this before, so you probably knew. But when you look at it first, a lot of people see a boat, but actually it's a cake.
I do love how you use that all the time, but I've never seen a boat. I can only see the cake.
You can't see a boat, really.
No. I can see what you're saying about it, but
No.
you've told me before that's like the ocean or whatever, but all I see.
Well, look at that. That's like the edge of the boat.
Well,
it's like the edge of the boat, and then you got the ocean that's beyond that. And
now I just get really hungry and think cheesecake. That's all I ever do when I see that picture.
Yeah, well, it depends on your perception, doesn't it?
Oh, right.
Interpret it according to.
Probably I'm just greedy.
If you're hungry and food oriented, you'll probably see it as
yeah.
cheesecake. If you're more like travel oriented, you'll see it as a adventure boat. I saw it as a boat. Interesting. And then I was like, actually look again, and you see that it's something else. And so that there's a number of these kinds of mind games. You realize that it's actually all perceptual. It depends on how you see it. That's the reality you're going to give it. Hence the optical delusion. But an interesting experience with the movie. So you notice I made an error. I put Tom Hanks instead of Tim Robbins as the lead character, because I was going to send out another movie which had Tom Hanks starring in. Called, I'll do that maybe next week soon, called The Green Mile, which is quite, well, that's a mind-watching movie or note, so, but maybe not this week, for whatever reasons. I changed my mind, but in my mind, I still had Tom Hanks. So I've got that in my mind. Now I'm looking at this thing, and staring me in the face is Tim Robbins, because like I actually had I had to format that image saying, this was the title banner, and it's actually got the actor's name, but I read Tom Hanks and not Tim Robbins. How interesting is that? Because it's just, that's what I decided. I pre-decided that. It was fixed in my mind, and then.
And isn't it weird, when I was watching it, I kept thinking, where's Tom Hanks? I'm sure he said Tom Hanks. And then I thought, I must have imagined that. But where is Tom Hanks?
That's what I thought.
The missing Tom Hanks. Yeah.
I thought, blimey, he's looking different.
Yeah.
Oh, this must be the wrong movie, I thought, because I'm sure it's supposed to be Tom Hanks.
Yeah. Well, anyway, kept you on your toes. So, but that was just interesting how the mind decides, and then we see reality accordingly. Like I saw over and over that image. I'm busy formatting it, and I didn't see it. It just shows you how blinded we are by our ideas. We decide first what we want to see, and then we perceive accordingly. That's what Yeshua is saying. So you decide you want to be a separate self, and then you perceive everything as that self dictates. But don't think your perception is true, because it's already been pre-decided by the separate self. And he's asking us to review all that and say, well, maybe that's not true. That maybe my perception is false.
That's why it's a bit tricky to change sometimes, isn't it? Because you only see what you want to see.
No, and you're so in that you don't realize that you're actually not seeing truly. You think that what your perception is true. Otherwise, you wouldn't perceive it that way. If you think that there's something else and that this isn't true, you would change your mind, wouldn't you? But the ego's convinced you that its perception is true, and this is the only way of perceiving, and that's it. It's a done deal, and there's no change possible. So it's very stubborn. It doesn't want you to change your perception, because then you're changing your self-concept. So we have resistance to this process because the self-concept does not want us to change our perceptions. It just wants us to maintain in the status quo. And as people very fixed, if they've got a very kind of fixed, limited belief, they're very not open to change at all. Their perception is their perception. They're convinced they're right, and there's no openness to like, oh, actually, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there's another way of looking at this. That's called a closed mind. I've closed my mind. I've already decided. There's no openness to any alternative view. I'm right, everyone else is wrong, and that keeps my ego safe and intact. So the first step in this awakening is saying, well, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I've been wrong all my life. It's a humility. Maybe I just have no idea. Usually, we're only willing to do that when we suffer enough. Most people go, no, I'm right, and as long as I'm not suffering too much, I'll carry on believing I'm right, because that reinforces my false self-concept. But if I suffer enough, then I start to maybe go, okay, well, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I want to be wrong. Maybe actually, thank God I'm wrong. Because like in this perception, there's no hope. I'm really suffering. I'm struggling here. Okay, so Susie, I want to read next one. Therefore, true acceptance.
Therefore, true acceptance is letting go of your attachment to the form of everyone and everything in this world, and perceiving only the changeless essence of every form through your own changeless essence, which is God, in A Course in Miracles terminology, and pure formless awareness of perfect love in our alternative art of letting go language. If you dedicate your life to correcting your distorted perceptions of reality in this way, you will be fulfilling your one true function in this world of time, space, and perception, which is to let this optical delusion go entirely and return your mind to its eternal home in the state of pure formless awareness, or heaven, in A Course in Miracles terminology.
Okay. Any thoughts on that?
That's what we're doing, but we need to accept something and let something go. But acceptance, did you just say acceptance is letting go, isn't it?
To truly accept your true reality. You must let go of your false perception. So, whatever language you use, it all comes down to the same thing. It comes down to letting go. Acceptance is letting go of your resistance, which is coming from the ego, a false perception of something. So, you're actually accepting your true self. You're not accepting the illusion of separation and the distorted perception. You're accepting the truth behind it. But I don't use it that much because it gets confusing for people. Well, so what am I accepting? You're saying I must let it go. Well, how can I be accepting it and letting go? No, I must let go of my false perceptions to accept the truth. So what I'm really accepting is the truth of who I am and the truth of reality. And that's why acceptance, true acceptance, is spiritual in nature and brings us back to peace. It's always going to be more peace arising. Okay, so any thoughts, questions, comments on that?
No, but it's interesting. Accepting my true self, accepting the truth of reality, and allowing peace. Feels nice.
Which means I must not accept the alternative. So I can't accept both. This is the non-dual teaching. I can't accept the truth and the illusion together. So one thing Yeshua says, don't try and do that, because if you try and do that, you split your mind, and you're going to have this continuous conflict in your mind. You can't accept the ego's thought system and the Holy Spirit's thought system at the same time. One is because they contradict each other. So there's a subtlety to this. You have to be careful that you're not going, oh well, I'm accepting everything. I've got to accept the good, the bad. It's all reality. A lot of people mistake that for acceptance. They say, okay, well, duality is then reality. So I accept the good, the bad. It's all God. It's all good. And Yeshua's saying no. The illusions are not true. You must let those go. So you must deny those in your mind, in your perception, to accept the truth that underlies them. It's been covered over by them. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but when you say deny or don't accept, is there not some pushing against? Isn't there a bit of
It's more letting go. I don't think it's a resistance. It's just like, that's not true. When you really understand radical forgiveness, it's just oh well, that's not true. So why am I even bothering with that? It's simply not true. I'm not going to resist what's not true. I'm just going to let it go. So I don't have to think about it. I don't have to give it any kind of thought, emotion. I don't have to dwell on it because it's not true. And this is the radical forgiveness. There's a gentle letting go. It's just like, okay, that's not true. So I'll allow the truth then. As I do that, I allow the truth, which is coming from my deeper mind, to just arise.
So it's just accepting that the ego is there and doing its thing.
And just looking at it and saying it's not true. That's all we have to do. Radical forgiveness simply gets us to look at it and say, is this true or not? No, it's not true. It's just a story. You're making it up. So don't get fixated on those thoughts and those emotions, because none of them are true. The whole thing is a setup to try and convince you that it's true. Every situation in this world that seems to be difficult is a setup for an upset. Remember that. And it's not true. It's an optical delusion of consciousness, as Einstein said. And when we believe in the separate self with our personal desires and affection for a few persons nearest to us, he's talking about special relationships, then we buy into that. Then we believe that the optical delusion is true, and there's no space for what he's talking about, to free ourselves from this prison. So the real prison is in our mind. I mean, the Shawshank Redemption was great because it showed that the prison is in the mind. Because people in the prison were enslaved by their minds. Both the prisoners and the warders were in prison, in a mental prison. And the one who was free was Andy Dufresne, because he didn't buy the construct. He didn't believe he was a prisoner. He didn't believe this was true, this was reality. He overcame it. He transcended it. And then he showed Morgan Freeman how to do the same thing. So he widened. You look at what he did in that movie. So our task must be to free ourselves from this prison by widening our circle of compassion to embrace all living creatures and the whole of nature in its beauty. So he embraced even the prison guards. He said, okay, I'll help you. You human beings, I'll help you with your tax returns. I'll try and get books for people so we can have a good library. He tried to widen and expand within the limitations that he faced. And that ultimately freed him. So in the end, he got out of the limitation. He realized that this wasn't his home. That actually while he was there, he did the best he could, but he realized that to be truly free, he had to leave. And all the time he was leading towards that. So it's a great metaphor for our spiritual journey. Yeah, make the most of it while you're here, add value, really, help people, live in a way that's truly helpful, but realize that you'll never be truly free here. So you've always got the escape going on. Your hero's journey is ultimately to escape from time and space altogether. And he never lost sight of that in his 19 years. He always had his escape plan. And everything he did led to his escape, right? By widening his circle of compassion and doing everything he did, that allowed him ultimately to escape the prison, right? So that was his own hero's journey. He had to go through that 19 years of changing his mind, facing the difficulties, overcoming them, never giving up to ultimately escape. And then that final scene where he's like, he's in the rain and he just opens his eyes because he's done it. It's his own journey to freedom, freeing his mind. This is a great hero's journey to inspire us to take our own. Okay, so any thoughts, comments, questions on this teaching on acceptance, what it means, how you interpret it?
I felt a bit of a shift over the last couple of days.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's always helpful when I notice the shifts. Just less attached, certainly less connected with a couple of stories that were going on. Feels good to notice the change.
Yeah, that's what this is about. Just ongoing noticing, awareness. It's a process. I think the thing about the Shawshank Redemption, it was a process. 20 years. The guy, the whole story unfolds over 20 years, and it takes time. It took him, all of that time to change his mind so profoundly. Compared with when he went into prison, when he came out, he was a transformed man. So he needed that almost a spiritual experience. In prison, almost like, okay, well, a lot of time on your own, a lot of solitary confinement. So it's a spiritual, he was basically living like a monk in many ways. And a lot of people have actually transformed in prison. Nelson Mandela being a primary example. 27 years of living really like a monk in this way and dedicating himself to a higher way of thinking in that time changed him. Came out a changed man, and then he was able to be truly helpful to the entire country. Many people benefited from his forgiveness and his understanding and his compassion, rather than him coming out being a bitter, twisted man who wanted revenge. And because he'd been through that experience, it changed him. These Andy Dufresne. It's not a true story. It's based on a Stephen King novella. But he would probably say, if it existed, well, that was the best thing that happened to me. I needed to go to prison to find my true freedom. Before that, I wasn't really happy. As I said, I didn't treat my wife right. He was consumed by the material world. He was working too hard, and he needed that experience to really find his freedom. So all perfect in its imperfection. And all the, the guards and the violence, and the solitary confinement and the prison warder was all part of it. Those are the characters on this journey that were there to awaken it. Okay, so let's have a look at today's lesson and teaching before that on what is the body. So, Susie, do you want to kick it off with number one? The body is a fence.
The body is a fence. The extension of perfect love imagines it has built to separate parts of itself from other parts. It is within this fence, this separated mind thinks it lives to die as it decays and crumbles. But within this fence, it thinks that it is safe from love. Identifying with its safety, it regards itself as what it is, what its safety is. How else could it be certain it remains within the body, keeping love outside?
Okay, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, something's going off.
Anything different from?
Yeah, I don't think I've read it. Isn't it amazing? Every time you read something or see something, you see it in such a different light. Because I keep saying I'm doing I am love all the time, consistently, and that you're keeping love outside. So this must be something that I'm leaving within somewhere, that the body is a fence.
And fence and defense are, the same. It's the same root word. Keeps me safe, keeps love outside, keeps me being a separate self. So the more we identify with the body, the safer we seem to be from this this love, this eternal, infinite love that now seems to be outside of us. And so we keep seeking outside of us for what is within. So just see how ingenious the ego is in doing this, constructing a fence, seeming physical, something seemingly physical to show us that our separated mind is true. That separation is true. We really are a separate self.
Look at Susie move. They've got her hands across the face.
Yeah, it was like,
oh dear,
like,
this is
really?
tricky.
Huh? So what's happening? Does it make sense?
No, it makes sense. Yeah.
Pushing some buttons.
It's just that whole realization, isn't it?
I'm not a body. I'm not a body, I'm free. So any other thoughts on number one?
Next.
Yes, next. This one's for you, Sally.
Thank you.
The body will not remain.
I'm getting to dread this one. The body will not remain, yet this it sees as double safety. For the extension of perfect love's impermanence is proof its fences work and do the task its mind assigns to them. For if its oneness still remained untouched, who could attack? Who could be attacked? Who could be victor? Who could be its prey? Who could be victim? Who could be the murderer? And if it did not die, what proof is there that pure formless awareness of perfect love's eternal extension can be destroyed?
Okay, but any
Still don't know why it's so difficult for me. I mean, I could just say, well, I get it. The body's a fence and death denies the love thing. But there's more. There's a much deeper something in me that is resisting this. But I think rather than resist the resistance, I'll just accept there's resistance there until it pops.
Yeah, there's one way to deal with resistance. You accept it, and then in accepting resistance, the resistance dissipates, because acceptance brought to anything will ultimately undo it.
And I look forward to one day reading it and enjoying it. And being enthusiastic next time.
That might be tomorrow. You never know.
Yeah.
No. We've still got, what are we, 268, 2 days to go. So 2 more days, you just never know. This might drop. And you just go, oh, wow. Like I'm reading it and like, just as though I'm reading it for the first time.
There must be something really good for me in it.
Yeah.
Or else it
Usually
wouldn't.
there is. Yeah. There's resistance. I mean, it's just another pointer to the same truth.
I did do some work on double safety today because my illusionary story of childhood lack of safety. I thought, well, maybe it's this double safety thing then. That
yeah, but I thought my safety is in the body.
Yeah, but it's like safety double removed. It's the feeling as a child, like there was absolutely, I couldn't register any safety anywhere. And so I don't know, I've done some work on that.
Yeah, maybe if that's a thing for you, safety, feeling safe, then this is saying very clearly that you will not find safety in the body.
Yeah, well, I concur. I totally get that.
But it's
I have also, and I have experienced the true safety. I have felt the oneness and the whatnot, and can see what's really there. But it's something to let go of yet. That's my conclusion.
I get when you talk about safety, because I guess I too, safety's always been a big one for me, but I don't know whether it's just lately that I just know that the loving awareness is always here, and I kind of use that always, because I know it's always been here, even in those dark times, and through that experience I was forever safe. Although the experience wasn't, yet I know. And even when I say that to you now, which I've never felt before, Sally, so thank you for bringing that up, but I just got a real deep heat, I've never felt safe, but I feel, it's amazing what you pick up, like I say, every time you read something or look at something or come across something, your perception, the way you look, the way I think I'm constantly in resistance, but I show up all the time, but you still don't, I think there's only something you get about you, yet the true essence of us is shining through us all continuously, and that's what we have to focus on, because it's the truth of who we are.
So when you were talking, something dropped in then. See if I can put it into words. When I had a oneness experience the other day, that felt complete, absolutely complete. So now I'm out of that, reviewing it. I can see I'm thinking safety. It's only in my head. Kind of know that safety is complete in the oneness, but it's only this part of me that understands that. I haven't fully embodied it. No, I've had the experience. I'm not, there's something not fully embodying it. So thank you for that.
I think when you say safety, mine's always the love thing. And I think the love is for everybody. We've got that love, and I don't know whether it's 100% I don't believe in it or something, because then I wouldn't have to go what I went through or stuff like that. But I think the love thing for me is the biggest barrier, because I can say stuff, but I don't actually think I know what you're saying. I think, although I feel safe about everything, it's the love thing that I don't feel that I am love, or I don't allow myself to really fully feel it. And it's only when I'm doing this that I start to realize these things. So acceptance has to be that you accept that you are love. Yeah, you can sit. Yeah, you can sit through all this process. Like even in the mornings when I say it, my shoulders come up as if it's a huge burden somewhere. Yeah, I'm aware of it, so I just let it go. I just have to be, because I'm saying it. I'm consciously saying it. And then the body, like you said, and then when you're not the body or not, it just can get you confused, can't it? So you just have to know when it's done and just move on.
Yeah, for me, listening to you again, Susie, it feels like I'm not accepting safety. I'm I understand it theoretically.
So here's a tip. This might help. Try not to embody it.
Okay.
Because you're using the body to, you're using the same word. Try not to embody it, because that it doesn't lie in the body. It lies in that state you went into. It lies in the oneness.
Okay.
What you're trying to do is you're trying to bring the truth into the illusion.
Okay. So then I'm not accepting safety. Then it feels like I'm not wanting to be safe or not willing to be safe. I know where safety is now. I know where safety isn't, but I'm not choosing it. There's a child part of me that's not going there, that won't go there. Digging her heels in and going, no, I bloody won't. So yeah, okay.
I love what you're saying there, Sally, because I think we're tripping each other in, because mine's to do with love, and I just get the little no, I'm not having. No, you're not love. That's it. End of, sort of thing. But wait, that's interesting, Johnny, when you say do not embody, because unless I've got something wrong, I was told again at the weekend or last week when I went on this, my friend had invited me to something. I've got to embody the joy and the love that I am. And it's like, you're not doing that. And I thought to myself, oh, that's interesting. I'll make a point of that. So what's the difference when you embody to?
Well, what we're trying to do is overcome the idea of a body. So if you use the word embody, what you're really doing is hanging on to the concept of the body, maybe in a subtle way. So just try changing the language. You want to live this, but be willing to accept that presence that you experience in the oneness, that is beyond the body. I mean, you saw that very clearly. Presumably when you had that, there was no concept of a body. You weren't maybe even feeling the body. You're just in that awareness, right? So it's a whole complete awareness. And in that time, the body really disappears. You weren't really conscious of it, probably.
So when I say embody, maybe I don't mean embody. I mean, rather than just thinking it, I know it in my heart, and I know it wholly and completely. But yeah, terminology. Yeah, sure.
Terminology. So there's no body. It's fully embrace it in your mind, right? It's a full acceptance in my mind. Yes, that is where reality lies. That is the truth. It does not lie in the body. It lies in the pure formless awareness that is beyond the body, where there is no form. And I've had that experience. So why do I doubt it anymore? Why would I look to any concept of the body still to find safety when I've found that safety? I've actually had the experience. You're very lucky. Many people have never had that kind of experience. They're still looking for it. They're still seeking. So you've had the experience. You've been shown it. Why do you still doubt it?
So the adult me doesn't doubt it. The child me, inner child, whatever you want to call that part of me, doesn't want to, really stubbornly digging her heels in, and won't. Why won't she? Won't give in. Won't give anybody the satisfaction in some way that I can be happy, even though I went through all that. So yeah, just a stubborn part of me.
So it's a self-concept saying, no, based on my conditioning, your inner child. So that's your early formative years, the conditioning of that, the programming of that, which is the separate self. That's when your separate self was formed. Well, you came in with it in karma, but that's when it became, your separate self in this life. So you're dealing with the core of the ego there. It doesn't want to let go. It wants to maintain that identity of, I'm the victim. really. There's a victim identity there, isn't it?
Mm.
I wasn't safe. I was unfairly treated. Don't forget it, Sally, you'll never be safe in this world. And the ego is telling you, it's looked after you so far, it's kept you safe, so don't forget it. And this, woo-woo, non-star, pure formless awareness stuff, yeah, okay, it can give you a nice experience, you can bliss out on it, but it's not going to keep you safe. And that's maybe the dialogue that's going on. So just start to really look at that thought. Go into that false self concept. Really look at it and say, okay, so what's going on there? And you explore those thoughts and emotions. And
So,
if you can start to see that they are false, compared with that experience of pure formless awareness that you had,
yeah.
you compare the two, because then you're bringing the illusion to the truth. You go, well, which do I prefer? Which do I prefer here? Because I've had both experiences. I can choose. I could choose to carry on in that story and have that kind of concept in my mind knocking around, which doesn't feel that great, if you're honest. It feels quite separating and limiting. Or I could have just that pure formless awareness of oneness, perfect love, which was beautiful, peaceful, transcendent, and that's the choice I have. Always. That's what I'm choosing between. Then you see choice in as it really is. That's what you're choosing between.
Yeah.
The experience of that state of pure formless awareness and only that state, or the doubt, the fear, the stubbornness, the resistance, whatever you experience in that other self. So go and experience that fully after this, or in the meditation. Go, okay, so sit with it for a bit and experience it, and then go into the oneness and go, okay, well, I know what that experience feels like, what oneness feels like. So let me invite that in. And then you bring in the illusion to the truth. And one of them will remain, and it's not going to be the illusion. It cannot sustain against that experience of pure formless awareness.
Yeah, there's some beliefs there of I will never be safe. There's nowhere that's safe. I've got those beliefs. Yeah.
There's nowhere in the body, and there's nowhere in time and space that's safe. But then paradoxically, what you're trying to do is to by digging in and keeping that belief system going, you're still trying to find safety in the body. And yet saying, but it's actually hopeless. I'm never going to find the safety. You know that. So why do we dig in? Why are we resistant? Because the self-concept, the false self-concept, does not want to see itself. It doesn't want to let go, because then you cease to exist, right? That's the very core of your identity here. Okay, the inner child, as you said, it's the very core, it's the seed of the separate self. That then has to go. And the ego is like, no, I'm not going there, because then separate I, ceases to exist. If you do away with that self-concept, you go to the very core of that, that inner child that wants to be separate and the pain, and you let that go, then the ego's done for. There's no separate self remaining. It's gone. And you are only the one self. You're only this enlightened self and the experience that comes with it. And there's a resistance to that. So that's probably what's underlying all of this.
Yeah, bit of sadness coming up now. Yeah.
And it can be, because you look at your whole story, you go back to birth and your childhood, and you look at the story of Sally, and it's quite a sad story, actually, because it's the ego story, and we all have it. But the liberation comes when you go, but the story's not true. It was just a story I made up. I believed it. Okay, I'm realizing that now. The story isn't true. The story's coming to an end. But it has to come to an end. I don't want the story anymore. I don't want to believe in this false story. And I certainly don't want another story. If you die unawakened, you make up another story, and you have to do the whole thing again. Create another story. This time you're someone else. You become Susie, or you become a Mark, or whatever. You choose another body. You choose another life. You have another story, another false self-concept, and again you suffer, and you forget everything, and you now have to figure it out again. So it's a choice, and it can be a bit, a bit sad, because you're letting go of that part of you that's still attached to this world and the human experience, and wants to somehow make it work. No, it can't all be bad. The ego is telling you it can't all be bad. It can't all be a delusion. There's something good here. This is what it's telling you.
It's the little self that you can't kind of let go of, because I'm really getting this with you, Sally, because the more you keep talking about safety is the more that how I felt unloved and how I was treated as a child. And even though I've been with my husband for 30 years, got 2 great kids, I still don't believe I'm that. It's really bizarre, isn't it? What we tell ourselves, and it's that small self that's still within. And then I get beat up on myself or get mad with myself thinking, but a child wouldn't do that. So I can understand what Jono's saying there, because we then swap the story to think, well, that ain't a child, or that's, you start getting more into it rather than thinking, oh, hold on a minute. Awareness of perfect love is here, right now. What am I doing? Come on, what am I doing?
None of this is true. Remember, the Holy Spirit's reinterpretation. The Holy Spirit is the voice in you that says, Susie, none of this is true. Not one thought and emotion and feeling about the story of you is true. And in that lies your freedom, in that moment. If you can accept that, then you find the pure formless awareness starts arising. You find peace. But it's difficult, it's radical. The ego is not going to like this, because you're going, okay, there's nowhere to hide anymore. You can't hide away and duck and dive and keep the separate self somehow separate. It's got to all be exposed through these, very clear words. These teachings are brilliant because he's so direct. So there's nowhere to hide with Yeshua. He's like, okay, well, let's just look at it all. And if you read these words and you're honest with yourself, there's nowhere to hide. Your ego can't duck and dive. It's going to be brought to the light of true awareness, and it's going to be exposed, and it's going to be undone.
Oh, thank you.
Was that second paragraph? Maybe you read it again later. Read it one more time and just see what drops now for you.
Well, I feel like I want to do a bit of clearing on it, but all right, I'll read it again. The body will not remain, yet this it sees as double safety. For the extension of perfect love's impermanence is proof its fences work and do the task its mind assigns to them. For if its oneness still remained untouched, who could attack? That's the bit. Who could attack? Who could be attacked? Oh yeah, I can feel it. Got to let go of all those stories of attack. Okay.
It cannot be true if your oneness remains untouched.
No, I know it's not true, but it's just like hanging on to it in my energy. All right. Who could be victor? Who could be its prey? Who could be victim? Yeah, still some victim there. Who the murderer? And if it did not die, what proof is there that pure formless awareness of perfect love's eternal extension can be destroyed? Yeah, all right. Yeah, it does feel very, very different. Yeah, got it.
Something just kind of dropped for you.
Yeah, next bit is gone, yeah.
So you got to look at that whole self-concept of attack, being attacked, defense and attack. Who could be the victim?
Yeah.
The story of that, which is the human story. We all have that.
Yeah.
And say, it's not true.
Didn't know I'd still got it. Yeah.
Well, it's deep-seated, this victim identity.
Well hidden, that one.
Is at the core of the ego, and it's to reveal it. And of course, it's not comfortable. But just doing this kind of work, where you're reading and you're just like letting the feelings arise, and you're really taking the time to allow them to come up, and then let them go, you'll find that there's a clearance. Okay, so there's still, right, what's stopping you from that experience of pure bliss. You could have that forever, Sally, you realize, forever. Your mind can't, your ego can't even get its head around that. Forever. Like, just be in that state forever. Never have to deal with any of the problems of time and space here. You could have that forever. The only thing that's stopping you is this little self-concept that still thinks that it's a victim, that still identifies with the body, that doesn't want to let go. It's digging in its heels and saying, no, no, you'll never be safe. Even though you've had the experience of perfect safety, you'll never be safe here. Or, yes, of course. See that? You'll never be safe here, which is why you got to let go of the body and your separate identity entirely, because you'll never be safe here. The world was designed to make you feel unsafe. Being the projection of guilt and fear and sin, what else could you expect but a very unsafe world? So you'll never find it here. And there's a huge relief in that. Now just think about that and say, okay, I've been looking where it can't be found. And there's a bit of sadness there, and you can kind of have a little bit of guilt and, well, I've been such an idiot, and, but let go of that too. And go, okay, but that's really, really good news, because finally I can stop looking for safety where I will never find it. I can finally understand that safety only lies within, in this one place, and you're very lucky, you've experienced it. Spirit's given you the full experience of oneness. That's a revelation. You've had the experience. So you know that that's there. It's not like, oh, well, conceptually other people have had the experience and I'm hoping one day I'll have the experience. You've actually had the experience. So you know.
And this is why it's coming up now, isn't it? Because I've had that experience. It's a shame. This is opposite to it, yeah.
And you can't have both experiences.
Mm.
Do you see that so clearly? You can't be in that formless oneness and experience that and be identified with a separate self.
Mm.
The one denies the other.
Yeah.
You must choose.
Yeah.
And then you're bringing the illusion to the truth. Okay, I choose only the truth. That means everything in the illusion must go. Okay, there's no other way. Your separate self, the self-concept, the story, life here in this world, everything that you think you've enjoyed, your pains, your pleasures, your sorrows, your dreams, your ambitions, your hopes, your fears, all of it must go. But you will gladly, that experience, how amazing was that experience?
Mm.
Surely that's worth it.
Perfect.
You can have that experience forever, right? Mm. Your mind can rest in that state forever with no change, no variation, perfect peace and bliss forever, for all eternity. Or you could have this human experience changing all the time, the ups and the downs. You're going to get old, you're going to die. You've got, this shadow self all the time. They're always seeking, never quite find. Choose which do you want?
Yeah.
And the answer is surely obvious. It's like, well, who in their right mind would choose the changeable human experience, full of so many vacillations and ups and downs, and there's no certainty, and ultimately you're going to die over pure formless awareness, over perfect bliss forever. Why would you make it an insane choice like that when you understand the alternatives correctly?
It was only because it was so hidden I didn't know it was there, but definitely exposed now. Okay. I'm just going to log off. Well, I'm not going to log off. I'll just turn my camera off for 10 minutes. I'm just going to do some clearing on this, and then I'll join you again.
All
so
right.
over to you, Sam.
We'll
Susie.
Continue. All right. So number 2.
That was profound, Sally, because all I've done is yawn and scratch my head and all sorts, so I can feel something happening. So it's amazing, isn't it, when one person shares something, it just
No, because we've all got this issue, deep-seated, the self-concept, inner child, or whatever. You know, these are all names really for ego and spirit. The Course just has its own terminology. But what I like about the Course is it's very clear. So look, don't get confused by all the different names. And there's actually only two things going on, right? There's what he calls the ego, the sense of a separate self, and there's the Holy Spirit, the one self. And you've got two separate ideas, two separate thought systems, and that's actually what's going on here. And you must choose between them. So there's no fudging it. There's no ambiguity. Saying you must choose very clearly between them, and that's the only valid use of choice. If you choose among illusions, you're just choosing the same thing. Seems to be different, but it's not really different.
It is right the way you're saying it, but again, it's the experience. And I think safety and love, they're big, aren't they? They are biggies that are going to keep coming back. But when you're consciously aware and you're doing something about it, and knowing the truth, like you said, it's just a story. It's a story.
Yeah, thank God it's a story, because no one's story here is particularly good.
No.
The story of I was listening to Eckhart Tolle. He said, yeah, well, thank God I'm not my story, because honestly, my story is not that great.
Yeah.
Everyone kind of laughs, even though he's been a very successful now in his latter years. He recognizes that the story of Eckhart Tolle wasn't that great. He had a very unhappy childhood. He was miserable. He got to a point of suicide, and then he found himself, and he became truly helpful. But overall, the human story isn't such a great story. So thank goodness we're not our story. We're not our history, and we're not our past. We're not limited by any of that. We are the Christ. We are the transcendent self that's always been there, and we can always identify with that, no matter what's happening. And that's our salvation. Just forget the story, forget the body, and realize right now I am love. Right now, I always have been, I always will be. It's totally independent of the story, of the body, of any dream. As he says here, do you want to read? The body is a dream.
The body is a dream. Like other dreams, it sometimes seems to picture happiness, but can quite suddenly revert to fear, where every dream is born. For only love extends in truth, and truth can never fear. Made to be fearful, the body must serve the purpose given it, but we can change the purpose that the body will obey by changing what we think that it is for.
Okay. That's on that. You're going to sleep.
I'm just yawning. I've got to stop yawning, shifting.
Well, I'll tell you why, because the ego doesn't like this. It wants to make us go to sleep, so we don't.
I think there's something more, there's a lot more going off, I think because you're so aware of this now. It's, we're doing it consistently.
So did you see the power of joining more often?
Oh yeah.
Because you get on a roll, and it's like, okay, so every day if you do this, it's like, okay, you're just accelerating the journey.
So yeah, the body is a dream, but that at the last bit, number 5, but we can change the purpose that the body will obey by changing what we think that it is for. It's just a vehicle, isn't it?
The body doesn't have a mind of itself. When people say, oh, my body wants this, or my body feels this, it's all the mind, not the body. It's the mind interpreting the body. So we give it another purpose. Our minds can be changed. The body is a vehicle, and the vehicle can take us wherever we choose to go. It can take us to hell and damnation, sickness and suffering and death, or it can take us to enlightenment on a hero's journey to ultimate freedom and awakening.
So
when
you say that, when you're yawning and it's like making you sleep. This is different. I have had that because I know somebody else told me something about the inner child last night. Like you need to heal the wound of receiving, which you've had for such a long time. Somebody said to me the other day, and I thought, I don't normally listen to these things, but okay. So I put this meditation on, and now that's where I keep falling asleep. Whereas for this, I'm quite with it. Do you know what I mean? But for that one, I've tried it a few times, and it's amazing that it's taking you to a place where you can just love and accept the whole of you. And yet I keep falling asleep on that one. And that's why I keep coming back and just listening to this. I just feel there's a lot of shifting going off because I've been shaking a bit since Sally came on and we've been talking. I think there's a lot coming up. So I felt quite cold. I've been shaking. I've been yawning. And that's totally different to what, because like you said, when we're speaking, when we're doing stuff, it's a whole different, oh.
Oh, what happens is as you shift mentally, emotionally, you're letting go of those deep-seated stuff, then the body reacts. You know, it all comes out, and so you're tiredness, as you say, shaking, cold, all kinds of things, because you're shifting energetically. So that's a good sign. I mean, something's happening. Something's shaking up the status quo. A lot of people get scared and go, "Oh, you know, I just want to go back to how it was," but be willing to go through it. You know, it's just the releasing of these layers. As the layers release, they come up as an experience, and it's like, okay, well, I'm feeling tired in the body, I'm yawning, I've got shivers, I'm shaking, I'm cold, but it's all just that energy releasing. What happens with an onion? You know, you peel the onion, you cry.
Layer. Now that's something that, because I never used to understand. Oh God, what are you on about? And now when people, I'm like, oh my gosh, yeah, it's so true. It's awful, isn't it?
The hero's journey is just being willing to go through the discomfort of the transformation. Say, okay, yeah, no, it's just the unpeeling of these layers. Of course, it's not comfortable, but I'm willing to go through the process. I'm not going to die. It's just, in fact, this is the process of waking up of living. You know, that the profound. If you got to that part in the movie, it's towards the end. You know, the one line that stuck with me was Andy Dufresne said to Morgan Freeman's character, "Get busy living or get busy dying." Yes.
I had to. I wanted to stop and rewind that bit actually, because I did find that quite. Yeah. But you still don't realise how, like you said, the ego is genius, isn't it? Because you still seem to follow that kind of pattern and think, whoa, hold on a minute.
Well, the body and the ego that's invented the body is a death wish. So get busy living or get busy dying. If you follow the ego, you're getting very busy dying, keeping yourself very busy on this road to death. It's insane. It's like, what are you doing? Or get busy living, you know. And the only thing that can help you live is eternal life. You can't find life in death. So again, a clear choice. He said, get busy living or get busy dying. Make a choice, which woke Morgan Freeman up. He said, yeah, get busy living or get busy dying. So I'll make a choice for life, for freedom, and I'll go and I'll go out of the comfort zone and I'll go find my friend, and I'll get busy living rather than getting busy dying. And he made a different choice. We can change the purpose that the body will obey by changing what we think that it is for. So the body is to facilitate a change of mind. And so, you know, on the physical level in that movie, you know, Andy Dufresne has to escape the prison, take his body out of that place. That's part of his journey. And go to Mexico, and then Morgan Freeman follows it. Okay, the body, but it's a vehicle for an experience that then brings more freedom into the mind.
Oh gosh. Oh, sorry. Oh,
Okay. Happy with number 3?
Mm.
Changing the purpose. Sally, do you want to read number 4, please?
Body is the means by which pure formless awareness of perfect love's extension returns to sanity. Though it was made to fence it into victimhood without escape, yet the goal of pure formless awareness has been exchanged for the pursuit of its victim identity and the suffering this brings. The extension of perfect love extends its hand to reach minds that are its companions, to help them walk along the road with it. Now the body is innocent. Now it serves to heal the mind that it was made to kill. It all sounds very different now. I've had my little revelation. I feel very peaceful now. And all that, just, it speaks to me so clearly now, and before it didn't.
Yeah. Well, that's the advantage of really working with this text, isn't it? You're just like, okay, so sit with it, brings up stuff. If there's a resistance, just work with it. And sometimes that takes days. That's why he's given us this passage to repeat for 10 days. And on day 8, you go, oh, okay, there's a shift. Okay, I get it. There's another layer of the onion's just been peeled. And well, it's profound. If you can really have undone that inner child, victim self-concept.
I can see how I couldn't understand the number 2 because I was on the side of the story. I was really hiding behind the story. The story is in front of me. I couldn't see past it. Now I'm in the peaceful side, and I see it from the other side, and it's so clear. Yeah. Such a relief.
It's amazing how perception works, isn't it?
Like, oh my goodness. Yeah.
And it's just shifting. The miracle is when you just shift. It's you move from the one side to the other. It's like, oh, okay, I'm just now in my right mind, and everything is different in my right mind. I perceive it differently. I feel differently. It's a different reality, isn't it? It's completely different.
I feel like I've grown up. I feel like, I was that little girl that's going, no, 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 no. I was really attacked. No, no, it's really unsafe. To now being on the other side going, no, we're all cool now. We're all together. All parts are all right. We're in our truth. That's where.
Well, this is, the awakening is truly, another word for it is maturing. It's a spiritual maturing. You mature and you actually wake. You become, fully fledged adult. You're no longer the child playing out the child's story. You become an adult who can make conscious choices with the guidance of the Holy Spirit in the moment. You're no longer just playing out the pattern of your past and your conditioning.
It's interesting because that's actually how it feels. Yeah. And it's been feeling like that the last few days as well. I kind of knew I wasn't letting myself grow up.
So at 60, that's interesting. Yeah. At 60, you finally grow up and go, okay. It's been taking me 60 years. But it's like that's why they call it being reborn. You're reborn in the spirit. It's like a new idea of yourself, a new identity unfolds. And it doesn't matter how old you are. You could be 60, 80, 20, at any point, this is possible because the self is eternal.
But it really feels like needed Susie there to do it. And it's like you need that, just, I don't know, there's some other energy, isn't there, that unlocks you when you're in a group.
Well, that's the advantage of group work. Someone else shows up, then it can help because maybe you have similar issues. There's an energy. We can't really even explain it. There's an energy thing that's happening underlying it all that can be, really helpful. And the interesting thing about this is that the Holy Spirit seems to orchestrate exactly the right people coming on the calls at the right time.
Yeah.
For whatever needs to happen in that session.
Maybe Susie just yawned it out for me.
I'm doing a lot of yawning.
I have to say, you're doing a lot of yawning. No way, we don't take it personally.
Safety's been a big thing for me, so I want to thank you and say, Welsh, you must have been off. I've been yawning. I'm cold. I'm having to, but it's okay. I know everything's okay because I know that safety, love, everything. It's the same. So Thank you for releasing that, because we're all in it together.
Especially if you felt unsafe in your childhood, that's going to be a primary program that then drives your life. You see that this conditioned self has driven so much of your life, your decisions, your partners who you've married, your choices in life. That conditioned self has been making those decisions.
But that little nugget was really well buried, because I've been doing this stuff for 30 years and I hadn't got there until today. Wow. So that was well hidden. I thought I'd done all the attack. I thought I'd done all the inner child work, done all the breath work. I thought I'd seen it was an illusion. I thought I knew it was illusion. But you have to experience it to let it go, don't you, really?
You do.
And you have to be careful, because I've noticed myself, especially before I had the dog, and the dog's been fantastic, don't get me wrong. I'm still trying to chase a state that I had been in a few years ago rather than where I am now. So we have to be really careful, because we can fall into that, can't we? That instead of focusing on where I am here and letting go of what's coming up for me, you'd be like, no, well, I know I was like that before. And then you're trying to chase a state that's already gone. And I found that with myself, if I'm honest, that I do try, oh my gosh, I was doing that. But it is what it is. And it's every day's fresh, and you've just got to release what's coming up. And I think these breath moments that we have and the lessons are a great reminder just to keep us here. Because it doesn't matter what you eat, drink, what crystals you have.
In the end, it's about changing your mind.
Yeah,
that's what I love about the course. All the paraphernalia is stripped away. You don't need any of that. What you need to do is change your mind, fundamentally. And this is...
You wouldn't think it's so hard to change your mind, though, would you?
No.
Honestly, I've never, ever... Oh, my God. What, again?
Again, yeah. I mean, what we've done is we've totally inverted the truth. So this whole story is just a complete denial of truth. Where are we? Course information there. This whole story, I keep showing. I mean, look at what we've done. Look at the extent we've gone to convince ourselves that our false belief is true. I mean, wow. You just look at that and you go, oh my God, what have I done? Invented a whole world, an entire alternate reality of form and time and space and perception to convince yourself that you are something that you're not. Wow. I mean, so now you've got to undo that whole process.
That experience today, though, even just that 10-15 minutes towards the end before I went off camera, it's like I can see why you would go to that extent to cover it all up. Because you're like, you've got the problem, and then you cover it up, and then you cover it up, and you cover it up, and you cover it up, and you hide it, and you make up a story here, and you make up a story here, and all these diversions. Now that makes more sense. I can see why it was such a big picture. Because you really don't want to get to the core of it. You really don't want to let that go.
No, the ego is terrified of you realizing this idea of separation, your separate self, is just not true. It's going to do everything it can possibly do to protect you from that realization. So-called protect you, stop you from having that realization. So it's ducking and it's diving and it's weaving and it's bobbing and even if you're on a spiritual path, a lot of people are still, they don't really want to go there. They're like, okay, well, I'll duck and I'll dive and I'll do this and I'll do that and I'll find another modality or another teacher, and I'm seeking and I'm seeking and I'm spinning my wheels, really just going around the problem. And what I love about the course is Yeshua doesn't beat about the bush. He's just like, okay, let's go directly into it. Let's not fiddle around in the illusion. And his words are very direct, very to the point. So they take you in there. And if you're honest with yourself and you really do this course, you can't not have a shift, because he's so direct and so to the point. So it really just does this undoing process better than any other process I've come across.
You've also said we will go round and round, and it's like enough is enough. But even then, you still keep going, avoiding the whole thing, because you think it's just going to dissolve. But you need to just I'm not going to say pace it. I'm not going to say anything really, because it is what it is. It's happening, isn't it?
I remember a previous Course in Miracles teacher I did some work with, and I said something about attack. I was telling her I had this issue about not feeling safe, and she said the whole Course in Miracles book, I don't know how many pages it is, 560 pages or something, is all about attack. And I could hear her say that and go, oh, that's interesting. Has that got something to do with me? You know, is that really about me? But here we are 5 or 8 years later going, oh yeah, what I was hiding was the feeling of being attacked. Yeah. It's funny, isn't it, how those incidents you have, they stand out in your memory. And she said, I reckon that's the core of your issue, that fear of being attacked. And yeah, it's taken me a few years to get to it. Yeah.
Well, it's you know, it's a journey and it's a process. But you've signed up to this program. You've gone, okay, I'm gonna do this. You know, this is my path. This is what I must do. And you won't find it anywhere else. The point is, you know, you've got to look at your stuff. However you do that, whatever modality you use, you would have to have the same realization eventually. I've got to look at that and let it go. So this is just, you know, I think a very quick, direct way, because his words are, it's coming from a master. He knows exactly what he's doing. He knows how to be very direct, to penetrate through all the ego's defenses, and to get in there with these words and really help you to do this profound undoing. All of this has got to go. The entire thought system has got to be turned over, because it's all upside down, reversed. And that's why it's hard changing your mind, because it's like an entire, it's not just one little thing. It's like the entire thought system has got to go. And actually everything you believed is simply not true. And the magnitude of this, so certainly going to frighten the ego. It's very scary. Okay, right. So we're talking about the whole thing. We're actually talking about God here, the infinite, eternal absolute, which I've been running away from forever. And then it gets very scared and all of its defenses come up. But that's exactly what you wanted to do. You see, you push it and then the defenses come up. And oh, okay, another defense, another block, great. So let's work through that one and let's work through that one. And you just keep working until all defenses have dropped away and you go, well, there's nothing else. You know, I am just the pure formless awareness of perfect love.
I have to admit, since that last time when we did my core beliefs, I have to be honest and say that I don't think it's affecting me half as bad as then. Stuff is still getting to me, but not as, you know, like before. It was very like, I felt really overwhelmed by it all, and I really wanted something, you know, to stop it all. Whereas now I can seem to notice quite a bit more, rather than going into the story or into any of it. I didn't even know why I said that, to be fair. I don't know.
Yeah, well, as you undo the false self concept. All of this drops away. I mean, it's all caused by one false idea. That's the genius of Yeshua. He said, look, there's only one idea behind all of this. All of your problems, it's one simple idea. You think you're a separate self. That's the problem. So correct that. All of this then drops away. All of your problems stop happening, and the Holy Spirit's then reinterpreting all of this. So you're in the world, but not of it. And more, this experience calls you. Beckons you and says, remember, you're just this. And none of this is true.
So when you let go of like that sort of core belief that I was a victim and a abused child, it's like taking away some very shaky foundations in life, replacing it with peace and stillness and love. That completely changes everything, doesn't it? Well, I'm suspecting it's completely changing everything for me, because just looking at that picture made me feel very different. And before, I've looked at that loads of times, hundreds of times, and now, I don't know, it just looks completely different.
That's the interesting thing. That's why, it's not like, okay, well, you show it once. It's like you show it over and over and over again, because it has levels of significance that will reveal themselves as you awaken. That's the whole point.
It feels
Deeper
like
levels of significance.
I've stepped over into the other view. So, before, when I was looking at all the different fabrications and going, yeah, I do that. Yeah, I've been that. Oh, yeah, I believe in that. Now I'm in the pure formless awareness point of view. Oh, God, yeah, I can see why I covered it all up. I see why I hid away. I see why I told those stories. I'm looking at it from inside out rather than outside in.
Oh. So when you look at it correctly, there's an overriding awareness. There's love. It's like, okay, well, it's just a story. There's no condemnation. There's no judgment. It's like, okay, well, just a story. Doesn't really mean anything. It was a mistake, but there's no mistake that's punishable. It was just this is all Yesh is saying. It's just a tiny mad idea. You just made a little mistake, and you went on this whole mind trip, and you made the mistake into something very big and real and scary, and go have this whole fantasy, and yet none of it's true. So no big deal. Just realize that it's a mistake. Let it go, and turn your mind to pure formless awareness. Simple. It's so simple, really. When you say it like that, it's like, okay, well, but that's that's what we do.
Yeah, it's strange, isn't it? It's strange when something's so hidden that you can't see it. I mean, honestly, I wasn't telling that story. I honestly didn't have that story in my mind before the session today. It was like a can of sardines being opened up and going, really, that is still at the bottom of it all. Wow. Yeah.
And you see how this mind training works, because you have a resistance to something, and instead of glossing over and go, okay, well, never mind, I don't get this. That's what a lot of people do. I think they read a bit of the course, they go, I don't really get that, but it's okay, I'll just move on. And they move on, and they don't necessarily come back to it. So, okay, well, sit with it. That's why it says work through this 10 times. Same thing. People say, well, I don't need to read it 10 times. Like, I got it after the first time, maybe second time, I got it. But you didn't really get it because it's so deep and it's so profound. It's like, keep working with it, and something else will arise, and you'll get to like a core block through the process, like you did. And then you're like, oh, wow, that's something I've never really seen in all my years. I mean, 30 years of spiritual growth, and wow, suddenly that that reveals itself. That's pretty major.
It is. And that wouldn't have happened unless you were on it and making me go back to number 2 over and over again.
There's obviously something there for you. If there's a resistance and you're going, I'm not getting it, then obviously there's something that's covering over. There's a defense, and underneath that is the miracle that's waiting. So, okay, just keep working with it, and at some point it's going to pop. It's got it. And you can sabotage it by not showing up to the session, in which case I can't help you. Or you show up and then say, okay, well, here we are. So, this is what we're here to do. And let's do it. And I knew, I said, okay, by the end of this, Sally will have had a shift. I'm just waiting for when it's going to come. How long is it going to take? And there we go. Today it is. So, well done.
Yeah, and thank you, Susie.
Yeah. And then you go,
I think you've confirmed to me about safety for me, to be fair, because safety's been massive for me. Yeah, it's love that keeps coming up to me at the minute, but this is love. This is awareness of love. So it seems a load of poop, doesn't it? I don't even know what I'm believing anymore.
Well, love is your only safety. This is the simple message. You're not going to find it in the story. You won't find it in the separate self concept. You won't find it in the story, in the body. None of this is safe. It's all very unsafe because it's based on a false idea. Well, how can you expect the false to give you any safety? Yeshua he's just telling us, what it is, and he's saying, look, this is how it is, and your ego's not going to like it, but I'm telling you, you're never going to find happiness, security, safety, what you yearn for, what you look for within this thought system. So give it up. Just give it up. Let it go. It's not ever going to work. And the relief in that, and when I came across this course, finally it's like, okay, I think I've actually found the truth here. I was looking and looking. Finally, I found this. Okay, I don't need to look anywhere else. Okay, thank God, the search is over. What I need to do now is just work with this and go deeper into it. I don't need to find another teaching, another path, another teacher. I found it. I just need to really, go deep into this. Because the truth is here. It's nowhere else. And if you can accept that and then just work with this course in that way, in that deep way, it's okay, I'm just going to work with this for years. This is going to take you years to unpick the ego, and you'll make genuine spiritual progress. Because spiritual progress is not about going wide and going, okay, well, I have a bit of this and a bit of this, and it's like a smorgasbord of things you're picking from different modalities. It's actually about going deep into one teaching that is an authentic teaching, and that will take you to the truth. So deep rather than broad and wide. Because broad and wide is just more defense against the truth, isn't it? Oh, I'll go find this course, find this person, find another teacher, another. It's like, well, what are you doing? Why don't you just focus on the one thing you have and go deeply into it? And then you stop looking. You don't need to seek anymore. Not that you close to other paths, but you just go, well, I understand from the higher place, because I understand the truth. I can understand it all. And yeah, that makes sense. If it's an authentic path, then yeah, I can see how that can work. But everything, you're not seeking anymore because you already have it. You know that you have the truth. So you don't need to seek what you have. Okay. And this one, whose turn is it? Who would like to read this? This is a lovely passage. I tell you, both read it because I think it's pertinent for both. Susie, you want to go first?
You will identify with what you think will make you safe. Whatever it may be, you will believe that it is one with you. Your safety lies in truth and not in lies. Love is your safety. Fear does not exist. Identify with love and you are safe. Identify with love and you are home. Identify with love and find yourself.
Yeah. How's that sitting?
It feels a huge relief. Those, from number 6. Identify with love and you are safe. Identify with love and you are home. That's all you need to know. Identify with love and find yourself. Yeah, I like that.
So it's saying so clearly, this is where your safety lies.
Mm.
Nowhere else. You're not going to find it in the body. You're not going to find it in the world. You're not going to find it in lies.
The whole concept of what you believe love is.
Yeah. What we've believed love is special love.
Mm.
And we're seeking some kind of special love in this world, but that's not love at all. It's actually hatred in disguise. Your true safety lies in your own awareness, your own pure formless awareness of perfect love, as we call it. So he's saying identify with that awareness only. Be rooted in that awareness and you are home.
Can I read it now?
Find yourself. Yes.
You will identify with what you think will make you safe. Whatever it may be, you will believe that it is one with you. Your safety lies in truth, not in lies. Love is your safety. Fear does not exist. Identify with love and you are safe. Identify with love and you are home. Identify with love and find yourself.
Can you feel that?
Beautiful. Yeah. I feel like I want to say I wish my little girl had known this when she was young, but it's just a fabrication of a story. So yeah, it's
Well,
nice.
it would have saved you a lot of pain, but then it's all part of the process.
Yeah.
You're realizing it now. That's all you need to know. Okay, well,
I know, but it's just
realizing it now. And so the little girl is healed right now.
yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's lovely. It's beautiful.
Find yourself.
Everybody's searching for love and home. And here we are with the instruction manual.
Yeah, I'm very hugely grateful. You can only go, thank God, there's a teaching like this. And I don't have to keep searching and searching where I'll never find the answer. And there's someone like Yeshua who's done this. He worked this out. I mean, amazing man. How did you figure all this out? But he did. And now he's able to teach it to us in this, very clear, very direct way. I mean, the course has this directness to it that, there's no beating about the bush and mincing the words. It's like he's taking you directly in. Although there's a lot of language and it's, many, over 1,000 pages, 1,300 pages, and some of the language can be a bit obtuse. It's actually very direct. Especially these kinds of passages, I like the second part of the workbook because it's very direct, very short little passages, short paragraphs, and it's like, just little, it's like a little chunk that you download. And it's like, whoa. Just taking you into the experience of it. Okay, so any thoughts on that?
Funny how complicated we can make it, isn't it? Just to be able to return home.
Which is, of course, another defense. Oh, it's very complicated, very difficult. It's going to take many lifetimes. I mean, I've heard in the Buddhist teaching, Theravada Buddhism, they say, oh, well, when you've got to an advanced stage and like these kind of fetters, like, the obvious ones like anger and fear and so on, are gone. The fetters, they call them, so the blocks to the awareness of love's presence. Oh, well, then you've only got about another 7 lifetimes to go. I'm going, who makes up that rule then? Who decided that exactly? So suddenly you've got a rule that says, oh, well, you've only got 7 more lifetimes to go. Well, someone's made that up, haven't they? And how do you know that's true? So even in spiritual paths, you see there's these blocks. That's a fetter. That belief is a massive block. Oh, it's going to take me 7 lifetimes because that's what some Buddhist master said once upon a time. Well, how did he know? Where did he get that information from? So you question everything. That's the beauty of it. As the Buddha even said, don't believe me. He said, don't believe me, don't believe anyone. Question it in your own experience and determine it for yourself, whether you know it to be true or not. Which is the Holy Spirit. That's the awareness in you of truth and illusion. And there's something in you that knows. So question everything and bring it to the truth. And then you go, well, that's just nonsense. You realize we live in a construct of belief. The world is made up of these beliefs that keep people in the prisons of their mind. And when you see that, you're no longer in prison, you're free. You walk among them, but you're not of it because you understand the truth beyond it. And then you're home. And then you're truly safe.
I feel safe. That's a novelty to me.
Feel safe.
Mm.
I am safe.
Yeah,
I remember earlier, you were saying, oh, well, I don't like the word, I'm safe because it implies fear. But you see why he uses these words, because it brings up the fear, doesn't it? So it gets you to look at it and release it.
Yeah, it's really strange. It's like, it's an interesting feeling when you've not felt it really. No, I don't think I've ever felt it. I can't ever remember feeling it anyway.
You've
Yeah.
never felt safe.
I don't think so, no. I mean, it wasn't big in my head. I didn't go around thinking I felt unsafe,
Hmm.
but now I feel safe. I realised I haven't felt it before.
Because the contrast of experience. So what you experienced was the existential anxiety that plagues most human beings. So I never feel safe. It doesn't matter what I do here. I'm never safe because I'm identifying with a false self, which is not true. So how can that ever feel safe? That's because it's not true. It's based on an illusion, and that self will fail me. It's going to fail. It's going to fail eventually. It's going to lead me to death eventually. So how can I ever feel safe in what's not true?
I can see why people now gather a lot of money so they can feel safe, or a lot of belongings, or yeah, I can see that now.
It's a defense. So okay, well, I don't feel safe, so that'll make me feel safe. More money. But it's not going to heal their existential anxiety. Because as we know, money is not going to help you to live forever. Doesn't matter how many doctors and medics you have, they can't stop death. So in the end, it comes down to the safety is in your mind, and no amount of money can buy that. Inner peace is actually paradoxically, it's when you let go of the fetters. I'm not seeking security and money. It's ridiculous. How can money bring you security?
Yeah,
useful tool while you're here. It doesn't mean you have to live as a pauper. It can be useful, but don't think that it's a source of your true safety and security. It's a source of your identity. That's just delusional. It's the same mindset you have towards your body. It's just a vehicle. It's useful, functional, useful, practical. You can operate with it, but don't think that it's you, and don't give to it what it can never give. Don't look at it as a source of safety and security. And then you're free, because it doesn't matter. You have little money, you have a lot of money. It's like it doesn't really matter. You realize my safety is independent of my financial situation or anything else in this world. Because I am the self. I am the one self, and that has never changed. And riches, whether I'm rich or poor, you look at the marriage vows, and you could actually say those to yourself, couldn't you? Your higher self. Because you care for each other in riches and in poverty, in sickness and in health, in love until death do us part. Except the beauty of this is that death will not part you. You will never be apart from your separate self. In fact, death will just be the final merging into the separate self, into the one self, the letting go of the separate self. So just, both of it, so just embrace this. Say, okay, this is the answer. I'm not going to find it anywhere else. The answer's here. The answer's within me. I have to just accept I am safe now. I always have been and I always will be, no matter what's happening in this world, because none of this is true. It's an optical delusion of consciousness. I am safe in my true awareness right now, and I always will be. And if that lands, oh my God, I'm actually safe. I can walk around and I'm free and I'm safe and I'm peaceful and I'm happy no matter what. And you just have to keep reminding yourself of it, because the ego will come up and try and hijack that and take you away from that safety. But that's the mind watching, that's the mind training ongoing that you need to do. But an experience like this can really say, oh, okay, I have it. You feel it, you know it, I have it. So I can never really lose it again once you've experienced it fully. It's always there. If the ego can come in and cover it over, but you realize that's just a veil of illusion, and you just let it go quickly, easily drop it, return to safety, return home.
I've cleared on many things, especially since EAM, that all sorts of subjects, but I don't think I've really cleared on safety. It's not something that's ever really cropped up. So it's quite interesting. Kind of an abstract thing. Wouldn't know really how to work with that, but anyway, done it.
Yeah.
Today I shared I hope you don't mind, I shared your quote on my Facebook. This one that's on screen, and it got a lot of response.
Did it?
Yeah. found that very interesting, the response.
What
Hmm.
did they say?
Just very loads and loads and loads of people. It obviously called to them in some way. I don't know. I've shared lots of quotes. I share lots of things, and I don't get that sort of response. So I just found that very interesting. I suppose it's how you read it and how you take it. I'm sure a lot of people just thought I perhaps meant acceptance, but they probably didn't get, accepting how they really are. But yeah, I just found that very interesting, the response of it all, because I like how you put at the bottom, adapted from the Course in Miracles. No one actually mentioned the Course in Miracles, but there's a lot of interest there. Perhaps I ought to mention your course in listing there somewhere.
Please do.
Yeah.
Please do. I'll give you a referral fee, as you know, because I mean that's the best kind of marketing. It's just like organic. People have an interest. Okay, yeah, I'd like to know more. That's caught my attention. So, what's the next step? Well, you can always invite them to a call. There's a masterclass I'm running next month, which is going to be different. So it's actually going to be more kind of teaching oriented, actually giving them a bit of an intro into the course and some of the teaching of A Course in Miracles, and so more teaching, and then and just set up. In the end, if you like this, join for a 3-week free trial. You either do that now or wait until February, and join us then for the beginning of the next journey. So the next 3 months is the time to say, look, if you anyone who's open to this, wants a real change of life, say, look, this is starting again in February. That's the ideal time. Why don't you join now, get to understand it, and jump in and do it from day one.
Lots of people.
Did you have any thoughts about my idea?
Yeah. I had to, well, maybe this is why it led on to the safety thing. I cleared on violence, talking about the Ukraine war and that. I realized I didn't like going where there was war, where there was violence. And so actually you saying that led me to clear on violence, which has probably helped me lead me to this place of safety, which is very interesting, because now I don't feel triggered by the Ukraine war now. But I did put on my Facebook, also on another Facebook, would anybody be interested in peace meditations? And I only got one reply to that one. One person, yes, but they responded to this lesson.
Well, I think you kind of just got to start putting it out there. My thought that's sort of unfolded since then is like, say 15 minutes, 20 minutes before the call starts. So say we start at 12:15 or 10:12 or something. You say, join us. It's a little peace meditation. You could guide them through a little clearing, any resistance for a few minutes. And then I just guide them through maybe a short 7-minute, 8-minute meditation. So the whole thing is less than 15 minutes. And they got a taste. And then you say, well, look, we're going to a session. If you'd like to stay, you're welcome. Or, that's fine. You go join us again tomorrow. And then there's an opportunity for them to engage further if they want. So that's sort of the idea. That it's a very short, sweet, and it's around hopefully a cause that people may resonate with. But it's like anything; it's got to be put together and some work done. So I'm kind of maxed out really at the moment. I'm not sure I have the bandwidth to put it all together myself. So anyway, think about it. Let me know your thoughts if you want to.
Yeah.
If you're called, then let's do it and collaborate. Otherwise, maybe next year. Okay. So let all things be exactly as they are. Do you want to read that? And then first paragraph.
Let all things be exactly as they are. I let everyone and everything be exactly as they really are. Yeah, I think the word really was important.
Yeah, I think sometimes an emphasis, let all things be exactly as they are. I might get what he's saying, but just make it more explicit. All things, okay, that means everyone and everything. So let's be explicit, and then exactly as they really are is pointing you to the truth, not the truth in form. Exactly as they are. Well, you could go, what does he mean? Does he mean exactly as they are in the form of things? So it just needs a bit of clarification. So I think there's a resonance with people because we all want that. We want to, that's unconditional love and acceptance. Okay, I see you as you are. It really doesn't matter what you've done, you think you've done. That doesn't matter. I see you as you really are. Namaste. I see you as you are. There's an unconditional love there. We all want that. We want to be just unconditionally accepted and loved for who we really are. But it's the one thing human beings struggle with. To actually do this, you have to let go of judgment. And just accept that, the one self, the true self, is still untouched, pure. They are still the Christ. They're still that one self, irrespective of whatever other things they're showing you. So, as with all these lessons, underneath it is this deep metaphysics of this non-dual teaching. But I like the way he switches and he gives us new ideas every day. Okay, we'll think of it that way. It gives you a different perspective on the truth, doesn't it? And then the interpretation, I find the reinterpretation. I mean, I guess it's all for me as well, because I go, okay, so how would I reinterpret that? Then you're really thinking about it more deeply, aren't you? Okay, so what does that actually mean? Then you frame it in a different way. It's like, okay, well, I have to really understand the quote then, rather than just take it at face value. Okay, so I'm going to read number 1.
Let not our sight be blasphemous today.
No, you're going to number 2, my source.
Oh, sorry. My source, let me not be your critic today and judge against you. Let me not attempt to interfere with your perfect beingness and distort it into sickly forms. Let me be willing to withdraw my wishes from its unity and so to let it be as you extend it. Let me be willing to withdraw my wishes from its unity and so to let it be as you extend it. Or so too will I be able to recognize myself as you extend me. In love I am extended, and in love I will remain forever. What can frighten me when I let all things be exactly as they really are?
Needs a folding. All things be exactly as they really are. So this is acceptance, isn't it? I truly accept the true reality of this thing, of this person, which is the underlying awareness, underlying essence of it. I'm letting it be exactly as it really is and not being swayed by appearances.
Yeah. Take me into the still quietness place.
Well, that's kind of, I think the structures of these lessons are quite good, because you go through the mind training and some teaching and words, and then towards the end we get into these are really sutras. The sutra is just a very short phrase they use a lot in the East. If you've read Stillness Speaks by Eckhart Tolle, have you read that?
Yeah.
It's in sutra form, just very short, brief entries, and the idea is just to kind of take you into another state. So that's kind of what he's using in the second part of the course, to bring you into the state, which then is perfect for the meditation. So, okay, just let it go into the experience of it, and kind of closes out the session nicely. If you want to, you can do the clarification of terms after this. So it's up to either of you to stay, but let's do the meditation first. Okay, so any thoughts on number 1?
No, absolutely no thoughts at all, which is lovely.
Good, good. A feeling. Any thoughts or feelings? Just a feeling of expansive awareness.
Right in my belly, there's a real lovely unfolding of deep, deep peace and stillness. Lovely.
Yeah, so it's not just the thought, it's the feeling that you need to be aware of. So, okay, so what does that feel like? Because in the feeling, you're getting more into, not thinking, just direct experience of truth. Okay, so Susie, if you want to read the second one, please, and we'll go into a meditation.
Let my sight not be, pardon?
Blasphemous.
All right, okay. Let my sight not be whatever today, nor let my ears listen to lies. Only reality is free of pain. Only reality is free of loss. Only reality is wholly safe. And it is only this I choose to perceive today. I must apologize. Please say that word again to me and I'll try and say it.
Blasphemous. Well, I can translate it if you
want.
Would that be helpful?
Yeah, I think
Blasphemous.
Bit of a mouthful, isn't it? It's not a word I would normally use.
Blasphemous is the idea that you've kind of taken the Lord's name in vain and said.
Did you say blasé instead or something? Or
no? Let my sight not deceive me today, I think would be a good translation.
Okay, that's so much.
Is that
so
better?
Grateful. Yeah. I
Let
didn't want to ignore it, but
today.
the second time I couldn't even say it, so I thought to myself, oh.
Because a blasphemy is when you're denying the truth. So in religious terms, like you blaspheme the name of God, you've taken the name of God in vain. But actually the true blasphemy is to deny the truth. Is to lie.
Let my sight not deny me today would be good then.
Or let my ears listen to lies. Well, I think given he's talking about lies here, I think that's used deceive. What do you think?
Yeah. Just deny was, yeah.
Not deny my, my true self. You could say it like that. But blasphemy is really a deception. It's a falsehood that denies God and asserts the ego instead. So it's a self-deception. So don't let your eyes and your ears and your physical senses deceive you. No matter what they're showing you. Remember, it's an optical delusion of consciousness. You're dreaming. Your sense perceptions are not reality. Only reality, so let's make that a capital R. Only reality is free of pain. Reality is free of loss. It's interesting because, it's the 8th time we've done this, and then I'm just seeing this now. Just change it. So the next iteration, what I'll do is I'll take the last one of this, and then I'll go and replace the last version of this with substituted for all the other ones that I've done. So you have the complete version from the start. And again, we have the theme of safety. Only reality is free of loss. Only reality is wholly safe. Only this I choose.
Get the dog out a minute. Sorry.
So again, you'll only find your safety in reality. You won't find it in lies and illusions. And there's no loss. You see, in the separate self, you're always losing. It's a story of loss and sacrifice, isn't it? In your true self, there's no loss. You can't lose. No loss, no sickness, no suffering, no pain, no death. What are we waiting for? You compare it to what goes on here. You're like, what are we waiting for? Why the resistance?
very relaxing being in this safe place.
Mm,
Could drift off to sleep in it.
mm,
It's very interesting how things, chain reactions happen, because I'm sure I cleared a couple of days ago on growing up and then violence, and then, you know, because you mentioned the meditations that made me clear on violence, and that's led to today. It's fascinating how it all
fits
together in a
together.
perfect order at the perfect time
Mm.
in the perfect way.
And you can't really doubt as you go on this hero's journey that there is an intelligence that's guiding it. Because how could it be working in that way if there wasn't this divine intelligence orchestrating it all in some way?
And then Susie just happened to be on the call today, just at the right time.
And so, you know, you see the Holy Spirit it starts to become very real, tangible presence in your life. Well, I can't doubt it anymore because look at all the changes and the shifts and the transformations that I've had and how well orchestrated this whole journey is. Or how can I doubt, you know, there's this divine presence? I can't doubt it anymore.
Yeah.
Okay, so shall we do a meditation?
Yeah.
Yep.
All right, so just making yourself comfortable. Sitting your feet shoulder width apart, back straight, cup your hands in your lap. Close your eyes. Start off by taking a nice deep breath in through the nose. Breathing in, noticing how the stomach rises and chest rises and subtle flow of air in through the nostrils. Clenching the sphincter muscle, locking the energy in. Drawing the energy up the spine to your heart center. Put one hand on your heart. Connecting with your heart space. Draw the energy up into the crown of your head. Pause at the top of the inhale. Breathe in again. So just look at any thoughts, any emotions, any body sensations that are causing you any trouble, any pain. Breathe into those again, create some space, some light, some awareness. Send yourself. I let everyone and everything in the situation be exactly as they really are. And you exhale, have a sense of releasing, letting go. Blowing them all away with the breeze of your breath to the nothingness they really are. Pull the lower stomach into the spine, expel the last remaining air out. And just rest. in this deep peace and stillness. Keep watching your breath, just breathing in and out through your nose. Seeing how the air flows into the nostrils. And the air flows out of the nostrils. Stomach rises and the chest rises and the subtle flow of air in and out through the nostrils. There's nowhere else to go and there's nothing else to do. Else to think about. Just breathe, relax, be still. Focus on your breath. Present moment that keeps your mind rooted in the present moment. Listen to these words, just let them permeate into your mind, sink into the deeper part of your mind, knows the truth. So my source, says Yeshua, let me not be your critic today and judge against you. Let me not attempt to interfere with your perfect beingness and distort it into sickly forms. Let me be willing to withdraw my wishes from its unity, and so to let it be as you extend it. So let everything be as is extended by the source. Just a pure formless awareness of perfect love. So it must be the same as the source. It's all the same awareness. And so, too, I will be able to recognize myself as you extend me. So as we see it in others and everyone and everything, we see it in ourselves. In love, I am extended, and in love, I will remain forever. So let that realization drop, sit with you. You're extended by love. You are an extension of this loving presence, this loving awareness. And you remain forever in this state. And so what can frighten me? This is the truth. There's only love. It's always there, right here, right now. What can frighten me then? I'm going to let all things be exactly as they really are. So let my sight not deceive me today. Or let my ears listen to lies. Only reality is free of pain. Only reality is free of loss. Only reality is wholly safe. And it is only this I choose to perceive today. Make that choice and just rest in the safety and the comfort of that highest choice you can make. I rest in God, I rest in this deep safety, this peace of God, the peace of pure formless awareness that surpasses all understanding, it's been called. So just go there, sink into this reality, accept it fully, no matter what's going on in your life. You just let go of that, any misperceptions of that, and you open your mind to this higher awareness. Nothing else to do, nowhere else to go, nothing else to think about. Just breathe, relax, be still. And surrender to the truth of who you really are. Experience the love and the peace and the safety this brings completely, deeply, fully for the next couple of minutes of deep silence. Any thoughts arise, just let them go. Might be helpful to think of them as cloud patterns, just drifting by. So you just blow them away. The breeze of your breath to the nothingness they really are. Letting them all go. Surrendering into the stillness. Just letting all things, everything and everyone be exactly as they really are. For the next couple of minutes of deep contemplative silence. And so just gently coming back in this deep state, connection of perfect peace and safety, and you're not really leaving that at all, that's still there. And bring some awareness back into your senses, into the body, and via that into the seemingly external world. And on the count of 3, you're going to open your eyes. So 1, just breathing in, noticing how the stomach rises and the chest rises. Subtle flow of air in through the nostrils. 2, pausing at the top of the inhale. Scan your mind again, notice any thoughts, any emotions, any sensations going on. And if there's anything that doesn't feel completely peaceful, you observe it and let it go with the help of your breath and today's lesson. So now let everyone and everything in the situation be exactly as they really are. What a relief. Just blow away all of your misperceptions and judgments. Let them all go. To the nothingness, no thingness, no form. To pure formless awareness. And so the air flows out, chest and stomach suck back in. Energy you raised up into the crown of your head subsides back down into the lower stomach, groin, all the lower stomach into the spine, expel the last remaining air out. And just rest here for a few moments in the peace between breaths. Count of 2, notice the weight of your body pressing down into the chair and the feet touching the ground. Notice what you're feeling and touching with your hands. Maybe there's a subtle taste in your mouth, smell in your nose. Notice that. Notice what you're hearing in the surrounding environment. Noticing all these things from this very still, calm, and surrendered state, which you find the peace that is there, and your eyes are closed, your meditation is in its deepest point. That peace is still there, still at the base of your awareness. It's always there. It's a foundational awareness without which you would have no life. So you carry on in that peace. The underlying peace is the same, no matter what your senses are showing you. And this is where your safety rests. So even while you continue in the world, you're in the world but not of it. It's called a miraculous state of mind, or a flow state. So that's what you're going to stay in for the rest of the afternoon, evening, to help you just practice today's lesson. Frequently, ideally every hour, Yeshua recommends just bring it to mind, giving you instructions to do that in less than a minute in your Telegram message or email, or you can use the 3-minute breath break I've sent you. If you've got a bit more time, just to top up this tank of presence, to reconnect, keep reconnecting with this deeply peaceful presence, and you start to train your mind that it is its default state and that prefers peace to any other state. And then eventually you merge into that peace. God takes the final step, and you're home in the state of pure formless awareness, perfect love, which is where you've always been. And so now on the count of 3, you're going to open your eyes. just take a minute to look around, observing the various things in the room around you. Focus on anything, just randomly pick an object for a few seconds and notice that you're still deeply peaceful. Peaceful awareness is still there. Nothing's really changed. Look at something else. Same awareness is still there. If you don't name or judge, label or interpret that object in any way, and you start to realize really it's all the same awareness, and your sense perceptions really don't affect that awareness at all. And that is the truth of who you are. That is your safety, security lies in this awareness and nowhere else. So yeah, I wish you good practicing of this, and a very peaceful afternoon and evening. So that brings us to the end of the meditation. So Sally, if you'd like to do a bit of the clarification of terms, it's not a particularly long section, so we could do that.
Sorry, I've got to go out in 10 minutes. I've got to wake up first, so I'm able to function before I go out. So thank you very, 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 very much. I'm going to try out this new safety feeling, see how.
Yeah, goes with you wherever you go.
Yeah, it'll be lovely. Thank you very much. And if anybody wants to join the calls, do I just give them the login details?
Yeah.
You all right with that? Somebody's just asked me for them.
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, that's the best way. You can send them to thealg.com as well to register for the masterclass, but I'm only running that in about 3 weeks, so they can join any of the calls, and you know, if they like it, they can start a free trial if they want, or wait till the masterclass, or wait till next year, whatever. But the best way is just to get them to experience it, isn't it?
Yeah.
So just let me know who they are. So, you know, if they should pop in, then I know, okay, that's from Sally.
Her name's Giselle.
Giselle
Borden.
Okay. As in Gisela, like Giselle.
Yeah.
Okay.
Could you just send me the login details through Telegram?
Yeah,
I
sure.
think when I send the email, I don't know if it always works for people.
Yeah, it should do, but it's thealg.club will take them there. That's just a redirect into my Zoom room, but I'll stick it on Telegram now.
Yeah, all right, that's easiest. Okay, lovely. Thank you very much. Bye.
Yeah. Namaste. Okay, so let's have a quick look at today's clarification of terms. So clarification of terms will be, let's look at the clarification of terms. This one is section 2, called Ego and the Miracle. The Ego, the Miracle. So it's got a bit of stuff to go, but we'll read through it quickly. So put this into document. Do that. Well, just do a quick translation as we go. Okay. So let's do that. this. The ego and the miracle, what is that all about? So let's read the first one. Illusions will not last. Illusions will not last. Their death is sure, and this alone is certain in their world. It is the ego's world because of this. What is the ego? So it's defining for us what the ego is, but a dream of what you really are. A thought you are apart from your creator, apart from your source. And a wish to be what it created not. When it did not extend. It is a thing of madness, not reality at all. A name for namelessness is all it is. A symbol of impossibility and a choice for options that do not exist. We name it, but to help us. We name it only to help us understand that it is nothing but an ancient thought, that what is made has immortality. So we've made this up. It's a false reality, a false invented self. False self-concept makes up a false world. But what could come of this except a dream, which, like all dreams, can only end in death. Okay, so the dream is the denial of eternal life. So of course, coming out of that denial must come death. And all dreams of being a human self, any kind of form, lead to one end, and that is death for the apparently separate entity and body living in time. So very clear, he's telling us the ego is death. It's a death wish. It's madness. It's choice for the impossible, a name for what is nameless, symbol for impossibility, and a choice for options that do not exist. And so invented options, invented self, and invented reality. So let's look at the next one. What is the ego? Nothingness. Just going to cut and paste all of this. What is the ego? Nothingness, but in a form that seems like something. In a world of form, the ego cannot be denied, for it alone seems real. Going to cut and paste all of this. So God's Son, it could God's Son. God's Son is perfect love's extension. Son is extension. So what is the ego? Nothingness, that in a form that seems like something. In a world of form, the ego cannot be denied, for it alone seems real. Yet, could perfect love's extension as created. Yeah, just online, but I'll be done soon. Sure. I'm going to go soon. Yeah, I'll go soon. It could perfect love's extension as it created it, abide in form and a world of form. Who asks you to define the ego and explain how it arose can be but he who thinks it real. And seeks by definition to ensure that its elusive nature is concealed behind the words that seem to make it so. So it's all illusion, it's false. And he's asking us to see that. And that form is false as a result. So there's no definition for a lie that serves to make it true. Nor can there be a truth that lies conceal effectively. The ego's unreality is not denied by words, nor is its meaning clear, because its nature seems to have a form. Who can define the undefinable? And yet there is an answer even here. No definition for a lie that serves to make it true. Or can there be a truth that lies conceal effectively? There's actually no need for an alternative there. We cannot really make a definition for what the ego is, but we can say what it is not. And this is shown to us with perfect clarity. It's from this that we deduce all that the ego is. Look at its opposite and you can see the only answer that is meaningful. So we can say what the ego is not. So the ego is opposite in every way. In origin, effect, and consequence. We call a miracle. And here we find all that is not the ego in this world. Here's the ego's opposite. And here alone we look on what the ego was. Here we see all that it seemed to do. The cause and its effects must still be one. So from the reference point of truth, we then see differently. We see the ego for what it is, from the point of view of the miracle. So where there was darkness, now we see the light. It's darkness now we perceive. Perceive with true awareness. What is the ego? What the limited awareness was. Where is the ego? Where the limited awareness was. What is it now and where can it be found? Nothing and nowhere. Now the true awareness has come. Now true awareness has come. Its opposite is gone without a trace. Where evil was, there now is holiness or formless awareness. What is the ego? What the evil was? Where is the ego? In an evil dream that seemed real while you were dreaming it. Where there is crucifixion stands perfect love's extension. What is the ego? Who has need to ask? Where is the ego? Who has need to seek for an illusion now the dreams are gone? So it's nothing and nowhere, and we just simply have to realize it's nothingness and that it's nowhere. So what is a miracle? A dream as well. Look at all the aspects of this dream and you'll never question anymore. Look at the kindly world you see extend before you as you walk in gentleness. Look at the helpers all along the way you travel, happy in the certainty of pure formless awareness. State of and the surety of peace, and look an instant too, what you left behind at last and finally passed by. So this was the ego, all the cruel hate, the need for vengeance and the cries of pain, the fear of dying, the urge to kill. Brotherless illusion and the self that seemed alone in all the universe. Once brotherless to friendless. Self that seemed alone in all the universe. This terrible mistake about yourself. Miracle corrects as gently as a loving mother sings her child to rest. Is not a song like this what you would hear. Would it not answer all you thought to ask and even make the question meaningless? Does it not answer all you thought to ask and even make the question meaningless? Questions have no answer, being made to still perfect love's voice. To ask of everyone one question only. Are you ready yet to help me save the world? Ready yet to help me awaken the world? Ask this instead of what the ego is, and you will see sudden brightness cover up the world the ego made. No miracle is now withheld from anyone. The world is saved. The world is freed from what you thought it was. And what it is it is wholly uncondemned and wholly pure. So the miracle forgives, the miracle lets go. And the ego damns. Neither need be defined except by this. Yet could a definition be more sure? Or more in line with what? Awakening is. Problem and answer lie together here. Having met at last. Choice is clear. So you bring the problem to the answer, problem to the solution. Who chooses hell, victimhood? When is recognized as hell, and who would not go one little while when he's given him to understand the way is short and heaven is his goal. Heaven is his goal. Who would not want to go on a little while when he understands the way is short. State of pure formless awareness. Is his goal. So Yeshua's just contrasting here the ego with the miracle, saying the miracle is the contrast to the ego, it undoes the ego entirely, it frees us from the condemning perception of the ego. ego dams the miracle. Miracle lets go and the ego dams. Miracle frees. Let's go. Ego dams. The need be defined except by this. So if we understand what the ego is, it condemns us to be a victim, condemned to suffer and to die, then we will choose the miracle instead, which is just the change in our minds. Not believing the ego's story, the ego's identity, not believing anything about what the ego is and what it does. So yeah, I'll send this out to anyone who's on the group. And if you're watching this recording, you're not part of the Ultimately Go Club, please look down below. There'll be a text message where you can go and find out more information, register for our free masterclass coming up shortly at theaolg.com, theaolg.com. Join us in that masterclass, join us in these live sessions, and allow this profound teaching of A Course in Miracles to transform your life. As you've observed today, it happens real time in these sessions. So thanks for joining. Thank you to Susie and Sally for joining, and I'll see you again soon. Namaste.